For 3 days, Ling Chen had been walking around the Azure Dragon City with the Vermillion bird's feather in his hand, hoping that it would light up. The Azure Dragon City was massive, and had many residents. Wanting to test every resident was impossible. After spending 3 whole days searching, and finding no results, Ling Chen felt a bit dejected. He had not been training for nearly 20 days, and had been pushed off the player level rankings completely. With his abilities, if he fully devoted himself to leveling, it would not be difficult for him to reach the top spot again. However, it would take quite a long time. Ling Chen considered whether he should go to the Yan Huang Alliance's celebration to join in on the fun. Ling Chen turned towards the Yan Huang Alliance's headquarters as he began to plot. "Master." A serious voice sounded in his ears, and Ling Chen slightly frowned as he asked, "What is it, Guaya?" "The Yan Huang Alliance's celebration begins at 10 a.m. We thought that Master might want to go, so we did some investigating. Currently, their defense is very solid. Not only have they hired high-level smiths to create machines with incredibly high offense, but they've also hired 1,000 LV-80 guards. As such, for your safety, we urge Master not to go." Guiya's words were very serious and earnest. He was one of the people who understood Ling Chen the most, and he had personally delivered this information in hopes that Ling Chen would listen to him. Ling Chen frowned, and replied, "Don't worry, I won't go. Right now, we're still far too weak. Even if we deploy our full force, we'll only be able to mess around with them for a bit but won't be able to actually hurt them." Hearing this response, Guiya's worries were dispelled and he hung up. "Big brother. Where are you right now? Do you want to come train with me? I'm already LV-17, if you don't train, you'll be overtaken by me." This was Tian's voice. She was evidently very proud of herself after leveling up again. With Shui Ruo, Shao Qi, Su'er and Mu Bingyao accompanying her, and possessing incredible summons, she was able to level up quickly without spending much time. Now, she was only 3 levels away from overtaking Ling Chen. "I got it," Ling Chen helplessly replied, "I've got some other things to do right now, so I can't train. When I have time again, you won't be able to catch up no matter how hard you try. Go and work hard with your big sisters." Returning to the center of the Azure Dragon Square, Ling Chen found himself in front of a massive skyscraper that was about to be completed. Above the skyscraper hung a massive word, Li, proclaiming to the whole world that this was the Li family's territory. Every player that was sent to the Azure Dragon Revival Center would see this massive skyscraper. Many people who had wished to use this prime area to develop their own businesses would often lose sleep out of jealousy when seeing this skyscraper. Although most people were incredibly jealous, but seeing as it was the Li family that had acquired the land, it wasn't so hard to accept. All of Yunmeng Xian's time and efforts were directed upon developing this piece of land. She didn't tell Ling Chen her plans, and neither did Ling Chen ask. He trusted in Yunmeng Xian's wisdom and intelligence. Ding, the communication device sounded, alerting Ling Chen that he had received an instant message. After entering the Mystic Moon world, Ling Chen had not received many instant messages. After all, directly calling was much more efficient and convenient. Ling Chen looked at the message, and saw that it was sent from Su'er. Weird, why would Su'er send me an instant message? Is it because she's too embarrassed to say it out loud? With Su'er's personality, it was very possible that that was the reason. As he thought to himself, Ling Chen opened the instant message from Su'er. "Big brother Ling Tian, are you free at the moment? I'm at our home. Right now I'm the only one here, can you come over for a bit? There are some things I want to talk to you about alone." The "our home" Su'er referred to was Heart's Dream's little house. Seeing this message, Ling Chen tapped on his nose, thought for a moment, then replied, "Sure, I'll be there soon." After replying, Ling Chen began to walk towards the northern residential area. As he walked, Ling Chen tried to guess just what Su'er wanted to talk about. Very soon, he arrived at the familiar little house, and entered. Big Brother Ling Chen dash, just as he entered, a voice filled with surprise and nervousness sounded out. Su'er was standing in front of him. She was the only one there, and she gazed at him both gently and embarrassedly. If he remembered correctly, this was the first time he had been with Su'er alone, of course, apart from that night when he had rescued her. Ling Chen closed the door, and walked in front of her, asking, Su, what did you want to talk to me about? Your instant message seemed so mysterious. The two of them were standing very close together. Seeing how nervous, yet hopeful she looked, with her cheeks slightly pink, it almost made Ling Chen want to give her a kiss on the cheeks. To Su'er, this was the first time she had interacted with Ling Chen alone. Hearing Ling Chen's voice, she felt like a gust of hot wind had entered her body, and she could feel her cheeks heating up. Her heart started rapidly beating, and she had to look down as she said in a very small voice, Big Brother Ling Chen, Ling Chen raised one of his eyebrows, a slight smile on his face. Finally, Su'er managed to pluck up the courage and look him in the eyes. She bravely said, Big Brother Ling Chen, I want to see your face, just for a moment. I definitely won't tell anyone else, alright? Hearing this request from Su'er, Ling Chen did not feel surprised at all. He asked while smiling, why did you suddenly want to see my face? Su'er lowered her head and bit her lips, then once again looked at him, because I want to confirm something. I want to know if Big Brother Ling Chen is a certain person. If I don't find out, my heart won't be at peace. Big Brother Ling Chen, can you please agree to my selfish request just this once? I promise. I definitely won't tell anyone else. This was the first time that Su'er, who usually wasn't even able to look him in the eyes, had said so much in front of him. Why do you think I'm that person? It's not like you know what I look like. Ling Chen calmly asked. Su'er didn't even have to think as she replied. After all, this had been on her mind for the past few days. She replied, that night, I was kidnapped by some bad people, and someone suddenly saved me. Although I don't know what Big Brother Ling Chen looks like, but when I saw the person who saved me, I knew that he was definitely Big Brother Ling Chen. Ling Chen, I would always secretly picture Big Brother Ling Chen in my mind, and his figure was exactly like Big Brother Ling Chen's. The feeling he gave me, as well as his smell, were all the same as Big Brother Ling Chen's. That night, when he caught me as I was falling, he yelled out, Su, but then immediately stopped. He thought that I didn't hear that, but I heard it clearly. That moment, in his panic, he had yelled out my name in his real voice. Even his voice was the same as Big Brother Ling Chen's. The way he protected me felt exactly like when Big Brother Ling Chen protected me, but he was even warmer than Big Brother Ling Chen, and made me feel like I was going to melt. Ling Chen had originally thought that he had executed everything perfectly that night. When talking to her, he had even used a fake voice. However, he never thought that there would be holes in his acting, and that Su'er had caught on them. Hearing what Su'er said, Ling Chen brought his hand to his mask, and slowly took it off, revealing an extremely handsome face. Seeing Ling Chen's face, Su'er's tears trickled down. Normally, girls would yell out in excitement, and, if they were brave enough, they would even rush over and hug him, as well as thank him for saving them. However, Su'er could only cover her face as her tears flowed down her face. Ling Chen leaned forwards, and the distance between the two of them shrank down to less than 20 centimeters. He stretched out a finger and wiped away her tears, as he softly said, "This is our secret, all right?" Seeing Ling Chen so close in front of her, Su'er felt incredibly dizzy, and her heart beat like crazy. She softly replied with an N, and her cheeks became incredibly red. She gazed at him for a few moments, before lowering her head once again. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Anon, Lord_of_Fapping, Dryzak, Shabalabak, Woody Wooching, Norwegian Viking, Zero Mass, Pickles the drummer, Kozakavoth, Angel, Agile_Shah, Anthony Folkestone, Zeker, Anon, Amro B, Gresmy, Cicero, Adam S, Bad Badger, Theta, Decimo. The atmosphere was shattered almost immediately as a light flashed and a figure appeared next to Suer. Ling Chen immediately put his mask back on before the person could fully appear. Ha! Su, you didn't even wait for me to finish showering and logged on by yourself. Morning, big brother Ling Tian. Shao-Chi waved at Ling Chen as she smiled. She couldn't feel that there was something different between Ling Chen and Suer. She came up to Ling Chen as she said, I was actually going to find you, my big brother wanted me to tell you something. Oh? Your big brother? What did he have to say? Ling Chen asked curiously. He was not very close with Xiao Qiufeng, but he knew that there wasn't any enmity between them at least, despite the fact that the Battle Alliance was a subsidiary of the Yan Huang Alliance. It's very important, Shao-Chi earnestly said, today is the day of the Yan Huang Alliance's celebration, so he told you not to go there no matter what. Long Tian Yun has made many preparations, and not only is he not afraid of you going, but he even hopes that you fall into his trap. Apparently there are many scary machines and high-level guards. There's even a trap that can prevent people from escaping if Big Brother Ling Tian is trapped by that, and is attacked by high-level guards, it'll be much too dangerous. Don't worry, I won't go. Ling Chen casually replied. When Guoye had given him the warning either, he hadn't been planning on going either. The Yan Huang Alliance was the Yan Huang Alliance after all. They had just been officially established, and yet they had spent so much money on their defenses. If he wanted to destroy their headquarters, it would be almost impossible at this point. Good. That day, you said that you would pay them back, so I was worried that you would actually go and attack them today. Shao-Chi breathed out in relief as she patted her chest. She continued to speak, there's something else that Big Brother told you to be careful of. What is it? Long Tian Yun cancelled the kill on-site order for you, but has instead focused his efforts on finding your real-life identity. Big Brother said that they've gotten close, so you should definitely be careful. If Long Tian Yun discovers your real-life identity, then he'll immediately attack you. With the Long family's power, as well as how much he hates you, if he really does find you in the real world, it'll be hard for you to even live in China anymore. Shao-Chi was extremely anxious as she said this, and Suer also looked incredibly worried. Being chased down by the Long family in the real world was much scarier than being chased down in the virtual world. Since the Long family held so much political power in China, wanting to find someone was incredibly simple for them. The girls were all worried that Ling Tian's real-life identity would be found out by Long Tian Yun. Long Tian Yun definitely held irreconcilable hatred towards him because of all the things he had done. Ha ha ha, hearing Shao-Chi's words, Ling Chen did not seem worried at all, but instead laughed, there's no such thing as an absolute secret. My real-life identity is bound to be discovered by Long Tian Yun sooner or later. Even if he finds out my real-life identity, he can't do much to me. He had best pray that he doesn't find me though. When it came to espionage and counter-espionage, there was no one more skilled than him, all right, apart from that red-haired woman. If his real-life identity really was discovered by Long Tian Yun, he would know immediately. I wonder where all that confidence came from, that you're looking down on even the Long family. Shao-Chi laughed, but then again, only our big brother Ling Tian can say such words without seeming overly arrogant. I believe in big brother Ling Tian, but please be careful. Got it, please thank your big brother for me. Ling Chen nodded as he smiled. Xiao Qiufeng was called the cold magistrate, but deep down, he didn't seem too cold. No need to thank us, big brother is very curious about you. If it's possible, he wants to secretly get to know you and become friends with you. You're the first person he's been so interested in getting to know. Shao Qi said as she gazed at him. Oh, by the way, what have you been doing these days? Your level hasn't risen at all, and everyone's been talking about that. You were heading to Vermillion Bird City before, so what have you been doing in the last few days? Ling Chen thought to the Vermillion Bird's third condition. He shook his head in annoyance. If he couldn't find a person with a flame soul, all of his efforts until now would be for naught. He helplessly replied, I've been trying to find someone, so I've been running around the city. Finding someone? What sort of person are they? If you want, I can get Big Brother to help. Big Brother has lots of people, so finding a person shouldn't be too hard. Shao Qi immediately said. Ling Chen shook his head. If it was a certain person, then he would have sent his subordinates to look for them. However, he didn't even know who the person was, and the Vermillion Bird had only given him a single feather. It's alright, right now I'm the only person who can find that someone. Alright, Shura and them are at the boundary of the forest region if you want to meet up with them. You can also go have some fun at the Yan Huang Alliance's celebration if you want. I need to go and try to find that person now, so I'll see you guys later. As he spoke, Ling Chen took out the Vermillion Bird's feather. As soon as the crimson-red feather appeared in his hand, a strange warmth came from it, startling him. No way, I don't want to go to anything to do with Long Tian Yun. Right, Su Su? Shao Qi never liked Long Tian Yun to begin with due to Meng Xian's circumstances. Now, due to the enmity between him and Ling Tian, as well as her admiration for Ling Tian, she despised him even more. Su'er vigorously nodded. It was as if Ling Chen didn't hear them, as he stared intensely at the Vermillion Bird's feather in his right hand. The feather was currently letting out a flame-red light. Could this be? Wah! What a pretty feather! It's red like flames and even shines. The beautiful feather attracted both girls' attention. The feather that came from a god-beast radiated a sense of dignity and beauty that normal birds' feathers simply could not possess. Ling Chen looked closely at the feather as his heart rate sped up. It was shining, that meant the person he needed to find was within 10 steps of him. Within 10 steps was Shao Qi and Su'er. No way. Ling Chen held the feather in front of him and walked towards Su'er. The light became dimmer, and Ling Chen immediately walked towards Shao Qi. This time, the light began to shine even brighter. Ling Chen looked at Shao Qi in surprise. Ling Chen's actions caused Shao Qi to feel a bit strange. She embarrassedly asked, Big Brother Ling Tian, why are you looking at me like that? He had spent so much time walking around in the Azure Dragon City, and had never thought that the person he needed to find was someone by his side. However, Chi was a player, not a resident of the Forgotten Continent. According to what the Vermillion Bird said about people with flame souls, that meant. Ling Chen immediately put the feather away and calmed himself down, while saying, Su Su, you should go over to the forest region for now. Shura and them are waiting for you. Chi, I need you to go somewhere with me. Oh? Where are we going? The Vermillion Bird City, let's go. Without giving Shao Qi any opportunities to ask more questions, Ling Chen took out a teleport scroll for Vermillion Bird City, and shattered it. He had already given every member of Heart's Dream many teleport scrolls to the Vermillion Bird City, so they wouldn't have to go through everything that he did in order to get there. I wonder what it's about. It'll just be me and Big Brother Ling Tian. Thinking to hear, Shao Qi giggled to herself, took out a teleport scroll to Vermillion Bird City, and also shattered it. Even though it was the Vermillion Bird City Central Square, there were not many people around. Up until now, the only players who had been to the Vermillion Bird City were the people from Heart's Dream. When she arrived, Shao Qi saw Ling Tian standing in front of her. She walked over as she asked, Big Brother Ling Tian, why did we come here? Could it be that you wanted to have a date with me? He. More or less. To be able to have a date with a cute girl like Chi-Chi, I'm sure all the other boys would be jealous to death. Ling Chen mischievously replied. Shao-Chi smirked, "Humph, you're such a liar. Big brother Ling Tian has the beautiful Shui Rua always by his side, and big sisters Meng Xian and Mu Bing Yao are much prettier than me. Why would big brother Ling Tian like me?" Although she said that, her cheeks still became pink, and a small smile of delight formed on her face. Why not? Chi-Chi's very charming and pretty as well. Alright, let's stop joking around, I'm going to take you somewhere. Where? Shao-Chi excitedly asked as she muttered to herself, "Who's joking around with you? It's not like I'd reject a date with you, humph. You'll know when we get there." Ling Chen said as he summoned his cloud-stepping mare. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Anon, Lord_of_Fapping, Norwegian Viking, Zero Mass, Agile_Sha, Cicero, Adam S., Bad Badger. So it's that far away. Shao-Chi lowered her head as she mumbled softly. The corner of her mouth hooked upwards as a crafty radiance shone in her eyes. She raised her head as she said with an innocent expression, "But, I don't have a mount." You don't have a mount? Ling Chen was startled. This didn't seem logical. With Shao-Chi's family background, buying a mount of the highest grade from a store was like buying a cabbage from the supermarket. How could she not even have a mount? Without much thought, he turned around and said, "The store selling mounts is not far away from here, let's go over there to buy one first." No need, no need. Shao-Chi quickly shook her head forcefully as she went over to Ling Chen's side with a few steps and reached out her hand to grab onto the soft fur of the cloud-stepping mare. "I will just need to share a mount with big brother Ling Tian and everything will be fine. My speed is definitely slower than big brother Ling Tian's by a lot, so even if I ride on my own mount, I would only be holding you back. Plus, the cloud-stepping mare is designed for 2 people. The speed that a mount travels at is calculated by adding the movement speed of the rider to the additional movement speed from the mount. When 2 people ride on a mount together, the movement speed of the fastest rider is used. Ling Chen's movement speed was 175, which was incomparable to normal players. Thus, if Shao-Chi were to ride on a mount alone, then she would easily be left behind, and the time taken to reach the lava purgatory would be longer. However, if both of them rode on the mount together, then it would seem a little too intimate. "Can we, please?" Seeing the slightly baffled look on Ling Chen's face, Shao-Chi used both her hands to softly shake the back of the horse. She was like a little girl wanting to get what she yearned for, using a soft voice and acting coquettishly. This caused Ling Chen's heart to beat madly a few times and he nodded his head. He simply didn't know how to refuse, and he told himself that this was the only way not to delay their journey. He reached out his hand and said, Okay then, come, sit behind me." Shao-Chi revealed a smile of joy as she put her fair and smooth little hand into Ling Chen's hand. "Can you let me sit in front? I'm afraid that I might fall off if I sit behind." At this point, how would Ling Chen not know what she was thinking? The warm and soft touch from a young woman's hands made his heart limp. It was not that his determination was too weak, but rather, every girl in Heart's dream could make a nation crumble and its people suffer, and every girl was irresistible to any normal man. He put some strength into his hands and pulled Shao-Chi onto the horse's back, letting her sit in front. Shao-Chi leaned her body backwards naturally as she rested on Ling Chen's chest. The girl who had her wish come true was satisfied as she closed her eyes and enjoyed the warmth and scent of a man. Her cheeks were flushed red and the corner of her lips were gently raised. This was their first time having intimate contact with each other. No matter where he brought her to, being able to lean on him, she was willing to go to even the most dangerous and frightening places in the world. With such a beautiful girl in his embrace, Ling Chen's heartbeat became slightly erratic. Shao-Chi had the charms that can topple any guy over, and nobody would be able to remain calm with such a girl taking the initiative to lean into their embrace intimately. After taking a deep breath stealthily, Ling Chen slapped on the back of the horse. "Let's go." "Ah. So fast." Shao Qi cried out as the cloud-stepping mare headed towards the direction of the southern gates of the Vermillion Bird City. The speed of the cloud-stepping mare was extremely fast, and very soon, they had already left the Vermillion Bird City far behind. During this whole time, the only sound that could be heard was the constant galloping sound. Ling Chen and Shao Qi did not speak at all, and their bodies were cuddled together without separating for even a moment from the beginning to end. They were immersed in a subtle, yet magical, atmosphere that neither of them wanted to wake up from. After leaving the Vermillion Bird City, the warm and dry wind from the wilderness swept into their faces. Shao Qi, who had kept her eyes closed the entire time as if she was asleep, stealthily opened her eyes. She felt a kind of tranquility that she had never experienced before when lying on Ling Chen's chest. This was the first time that she had felt this kind of tranquility ever since she was young. Even her father and older brother had never given her such a feeling before. She wanted to fall asleep in a carefree manner and enjoy this feeling. However, she could not bear to sleep because once she went to sleep, she would not be able to savor this experience. Big brother Ling Tian, Shao Qi slightly tilted her head backwards as she spoke to the silent Ling Chen. Ling Chen lowered his head and looked at her. "My mother passed away the day I was born. From the day I was conscious of my surroundings, I always felt a lack of security. Since I was very young, I always dreamt of having someone who is very powerful, unafraid of everything, who will care for me and protect me. Someone who will cause me not to worry or be afraid when I am with him. Big brother Ling Tian, what do you think, will there be someone like that?" It was hard to distinctly make out the expression in Shao Qi's eyes. She was usually in high spirits and her voice usually had a higher tone than other girls. However, at this moment, her voice was incredibly soft and gentle. Ling Chen pondered for a while before taking out the moonlight treasure box and placed it in Shao Qi's hands. "Qi, open it up. The person that you see inside is the one who you yearn for the most." "Ah." Seeing the especially elegant and beautiful little box, Shao Qi's face was full of wonder. "Really?" While marveling at it, Shao Qi opened up the moonlight treasure box carefully. Lustrous white moonlight was released immediately, shining into her beautiful eyes. Gradually, a blurred figure appeared in the moonlight and became clearer and clearer. "Wah!" Shao Qi made a lovable cry when she saw a familiar figure while collapsing onto the moonlight treasure box. She gave a bright and sweet smile. "I see it, I see it." "What do you see?" Ling Chen smiled lightly as he asked. "It's big brother Ling Tian." "Ling Chen, not only is this box pretty but it's also fascinating. It can actually project the picture of a person. Is it big brother Ling Tian who put his own image in directly?" Shao Qi was unable to take her eyes away as her gaze was fixated on the figure in the moonlight. Ling Chen's words surfaced in her mind. "The person that you see inside is the one who you yearn for the most. Could it be? Could it be that big brother Ling Tian knows how I feel, so he is using this kind of method to confess to me? Is it like that? Is it really like that?" The young girl's heartbeat accelerated faster and faster and she almost lost her ability to think. She didn't notice Ling Chen's wonderfully priceless expression at all. So her feelings towards me aren't as simple as simply adoring a strong person. Shao Qi gently closed the moonlight treasure box. She kept on thinking about Ling Chen's words as well as the figure in the treasure box, and she felt that she was filled with a blissful warmth deep in her heart. He said that the person in the box is the person who I yearn for the most, so is he really using this type of method to confess to me? Or is this just a prank from him? However, no matter what, there are some things that I already have no rights to pursue or possess. If this is really your confession, because I like you so much, I simply can't be with you. No matter if it's real or just my wishful thinking, I will just let it settle in my heart. Even if I can't have you, having this kind of a moment is already enough for me. So let me retain this moment in my mind in its most beautiful state. Until the day I leave this world. After putting the moonlight treasure box back into Ling Chen's hands, she laid on his chest and carefreely closed her eyes as she gradually smiled. The corners of her mouth unhurriedly produced a slight murmur. Big brother Ling Tian didn't lie to me, that person let me find the safest place in this world. Ling Chen, the sound of galloping sounded out unceasingly as they rode in silence. Not long after, Ling Chen secretly leaned forward to take a look at Shao Qi and found out that she had already fallen asleep, looking secure and blissful. Phew! Exhaling out a breath of air, Ling Chen tried his best to not move his body in case it woke Shao Qi up. There was still a long way to go ahead. Keek, no less than expected from my little master, you have already claimed so many hearts at such an age. Your little sister Shui Ruo loves you to death, and that girl called Bing Yao can also be said to be head over heels for you. She'd be willing to die 100 times for you. Even little Suer's feelings for you have been quite deep since a long time ago. And now, the adorable little Chi Chi is also smitten to the point that she has already lost her soul to you. Oh, there is also a possibility that the little sister called Yunmeng Xian may have already secretly fallen in love with you since you have helped her so much. Ling Chen rubbed his forehead. Don't spout nonsense. Chi Yu's voice was as soft as a cotton, and gently replied, I'm not spouting nonsense. Although little master's strength is pitifully weak now, but your ability to ruin girls is stronger by a few 100 times. It's hard to say whether you will ruin even more girls in the future. Even this poor little me is so deep in love and obsessed with little master. Enough. Ling Chen had a slight headache and silenced Chi Yu as he said calmly, you should know that I only love Shui Ruo. Hee, Chi Yu laughed softly, although little master can fool other people and even yourself by saying that, but you can't fool me. Little master does indeed love little sister Shui Ruo to death, but that doesn't mean that you can't like other girls as well. Let's take little sister Chi Chi for example. If you don't like her, then why did you agree to riding a mount with her so intimately? Don't forget, I can feel your heartbeat and even the tremors in your soul, so I am very, very clear about little master's feelings. There is also little Suer. At that time when both of you were together alone, there were many occasions when little master had the impulse to kiss her. Ling Chen, furthermore, I have even stronger evidence. Which is that the girl called Mu Bingyao has given her virginity to little master. Ling Chen's body swayed as he nearly fell off the horse. How did you? Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Anon, Lord_of_Fapping, Dryzak, Shabalabak, Woody Wooching, Norwegian Viking, Zero Mass, Pickles the Drummer, Kazakavoth, Angel, Agile_Shah, Anthony Folkeston, Zeker, Anon, Amro B, Gresmy, Wolfpack Omega, Cicero, Adam S, Bad Badger, Theta, Decimo. Ding! At this moment, a notification for a text message came from his communication device. The only person who would send a text message to him was most likely Suer. He raised his wrist and confirmed that it was indeed Suer who sent the text message. Big brother Ling Tian, it will be my 16th birthday on the 30th of October. Would you be able to sneak in to the dinner banquet that day? I just want to see you on that night and I won't let other people know, is that all right? Ling Chen was startled for a while when he saw the text message. I heard little sister Shaoqi mention before that little Su will officially be engaged to that guy called Xianyuan Shui on her 16th birthday. Little master, do you understand little Su's intention? Chi Yu said in a playful manner. Ling Chen stayed silent without saying anything. It's really simple. She likes you and it's to the point that she can't help but like you, so she doesn't want to be engaged to Xianyuan Shui. However, she was already initially an obedient girl, and her family, Xianyuan Shui's family as well as many other famous and powerful families will be there that day, so she really has no courage to reject him in front of everybody. Only you would be able to give her that kind of courage. Aya, Even I would like to hug such a cute, beautiful, and obedient little girl like her to sleep every day. Little master, are you really willing to let little Su, who has already fallen for you, to be with that guy called Xianyuan Shui? In just one day, the atmosphere these two girls and himself, and the feelings he had towards them, had quietly changed in a subtle way. These changes kept attacking his heartstrings, which made him to feel restless. He did not reply to Suer's message, nor did he answer Chiyu as he spurred the cloud-stepping mare onwards. At the border of the lava purgatory. Chi. Stopping in front of the lava purgatory, Ling Chen shook Shao-Chi, who was still in her sleep. Along the way, Shao-Chi spent most of her time in her sleep. She slept especially soundly and peacefully, as if she could never get enough of sleep. It was unknown whether she was usually this greedy for sleep. Hearing Ling Chen's voice, Shao-Chi woke up slowly and blinked her hazy eyes a few times. Big brother Ling Tian, have we arrived? We've arrived. Alright, let's get down. Ling Chen reached out his hands and gently held onto Shao-Chi's slender waist as he jumped down from the horseback to stand on the dried yellow ground. Shao-Chi also reached out naturally to hug him, but she did not let go even after reaching the ground for quite a long while. Ling Chen was not sure if she had forgotten or subconsciously did not want to let go. Where is this place? Shao-Chi asked in surprise as she looked at the sky in front of them that was dyed in red. The name of this place is called Lava Purgatory, and it is said to be the hottest place in the Forgotten Continent. Shao-Chi's body was still leaning on his body softly, and Ling Chen could not bear to push her away, so he could only pretend that he did not mind as he answered calmly. Is it hot? Ling Chen reached out with his hand to wipe away the sweat on his head as he asked in concern. A little bit, but it's still okay. Big brother Ling Tian, why did you bring me over to this place? Was it to look at the scenery? Red-colored ground, red-colored sky, and there also seems to be a lot of fire on the ground. It's all so pretty. Shao-Chi replied in an infatuated tone. Who knew whether the infatuation was with the scenery or with the person beside her? At this moment, Ling Chen noticed that while he was sweating profusely and feeling uncomfortable even though his tolerance level was a lot higher than normal people, Shao-Chi's face was rosy as usual and no sign of sweat could be found on her forehead. After pondering for a little while, Ling Chen did not summon the Vermillion bird immediately as he asked, Chi, I have a few questions to ask you. You must answer them seriously, okay? Okay, what are they? Shao-Chi answered in glowing spirits. Are you a fire element esper? Ling Chen asked. Shao-Chi's face was filled with surprise as she shook her head, of course not. Big brother Ling Tian, why did you ask me that? She's not. Ling Chen was stumped. The Vermillion bird said that a person who possesses a flame soul has very strong talents in controlling fire. However, Shao-Chi directly denied it and she doesn't seem to be lying. Judging from her expression, she's probably curious why I asked such a weird question. Since she said no to the first question, then there's no need to ask the rest of the questions. What was happening? So Shao-Chi didn't possess a flame soul. Then what was the reason for the reaction from the Vermillion bird's feather? Could it be that there was something wrong with the feather? It seemed that the only thing he could do was call out the Vermillion bird. Choosing not to answer Shao-Chi's question, Ling Chen took out the Vermillion bird's feather. Under Shao-Chi's surprised gaze, he faced the Vermillion bird's feather that was radiating light and shouted, Vermillion bird. In such a vast and spacious area, no echo could be produced. Just when Ling Chen's voice had completely dissipated among the hot and dry wind, a huge image of a bird slowly appeared in the sky in front of them. Ah! Although it was only an image, but the formless pressure and intimidation from the Vermillion bird's phantasm greatly shocked Shao-Chi. Shao-Chi screamed out as she subconsciously tightened her grip on Ling Chen with both her hands, and her body stuck closely to him as she leaned on his body. Ling Chen said softly beside her ear, Don't be afraid, this is just the phantasm of the guardian beast of the Vermillion Bird City. It won't harm us. After that, he raised his head to face the Vermillion Bird's phantasm. Vermillion Bird, is the person beside me the type of human that you wanted me to find? The Vermillion Bird did not reply for a very long time. Ling Chen could feel that the Vermillion Bird's gaze did not fall on him, but on Shao-Chi who was beside him. Under Vermillion Bird's gaze, Shao-Chi had to withstand the pressure from such a huge god beast. She had a nervous expression on her face and did not dare to say anything. After a long while, the Vermillion Bird's faintly discernible voice resounded in the air, "You carry a flame soul in your body, but you did not utilize this heaven-bestowed talent for yourself and even tried to suppress it. You even selected the water element as your profession. Are you thinking of using water, which restrains fire, to suppress the fire that may explode any time out from your body? Little did you know, by doing this, the flames would not be suppressed, but would explode out more violently. You could have had a lifespan of 25 years, but by trying to suppress it, you will die after the flames explode out another 5 times, due to your 5 major organs being incinerated. I believe that the last time it exploded out was 10 days ago, and the next time it explodes will be in 1 month. From the next time onwards, the intervals that it explodes out will be shorter than a month, and every time it explodes out, you may not make it out alive. Which is to say, within half a year, you will definitely die." Shao-Chi's body trembled violently and her pair of beautiful eyes opened wide as she stared at the phantasm in the sky blankly. Ling Chen was also shocked and immediately asked, "Vermillion Bird, what do you mean by that? You're saying that you can ask her if what I said is true or not." Ling Chen turned his head to look at Shao-Chi, only to realize that her expression was filled with shock and her face was abnormally pale. Her flickering pair of eyes was looking at the phantasm as she asked in fear, "How? How did you know? The last time that it exploded out was indeed 10 days ago." The fire that was in her body was also suppressed from the day she was born. Even choosing to become a water element mage was also in fear of the fire that was in her body. The Vermillion Bird that was in front of her eyes, a beast in the game world, had actually voiced out her biggest secret. Shao-Chi's reply gave Ling Chen's heart a big shock. He held her shoulders as he asked worriedly, "Chi-Chi, what is all this about? Vermillion Bird said that you have a fire in your body, and that you would not be able to live past another half a year. So you have already known all this? Is this for real?" His concern and panic made her heart feel very warm and sweet, and if it was possible, she would like to enjoy this kind of feeling for the rest of her life. She lowered her head as she did not dare to look at Ling Chen in the eye. It was impossible for her not to believe what the Vermillion Bird had said. The previous flaring up had come too early, which caught her off guard. And now, she was told that the reason was actually because it was the start of the countdown for her life. Even she herself had not thought that she would only be left with a short half a year's time instead of the 2 years that she had originally thought. "Big brother Ling Tian," she said softly. She had wanted to hide this matter from him until the day she left this world so as to not burden him. But standing near the man who gave her the security that she most desired her heart could no longer continue sealing this matter up no matter what. "I have told you before that my mother had left me on the day I was born. From the time when I could remember, my dad and big brother told me that Mum died due to a difficult labor. As I grew older, the symptoms from my body became more and more frequent, and they could no longer stop me from knowing the truth. When I was 7 years old, the fire that my dad had helped me suppress for the past 7 years finally exploded out, and that was when I knew the reason why my mum had left me. When my mum was still conceiving me, she had to bear the scorching pain in her body and all her 5 major organs were severely damaged. However, she relied on her willpower to miraculously persevere till the day I was born. At that moment when I was born, the bedsheet suddenly caught fire and while I was crying loudly in the fire, my mum looked at me and smiled lightly. Before she had the chance to speak to me, she had left me forever. Ling Chen, ever since it exploded out when I was 7 years old, the fire in my body became harder and harder to suppress, and the frequency of it exploding out became faster and faster. It exploded out again when I was 9 years old, then 10.5 years old. Then it was half a year, and it became once per few months. The last flaring up and the previous one before that had only a short interval of 1.5 months. I pestered my dad for a reason, and finally one day Dad told me while tearing up that I possessed the heavenly sun arteries. Apparently only less than 10 people in the whole world in every 100 years will have the same illness as me, and none of them live past 25 years of age. When the illness acts up, all the cells in the body rapidly rise in temperature as if flames were ignited inside of the body. It's extremely painful, and it may even sever one's consciousness apart during the final stages. My dad traveled almost the whole world just to find a cure, but he always returned empty-handed. After all, there was never a case where someone was cured of the heavenly sun arteries. After that, my dad could only find the most powerful ice element espers to suppress the fire inside of my body every 3 months. Even so, the doctor had told me very clearly that I would only live till 20 years old at most. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Anon, Lord_of_Fapping, Dryzak, Shabalabak, Woody Wooching, Norwegian Viking, Zeromass, Pickles the Drummer, Kazakavoth, Angel, Agile_Shah, Anthony Folkeston, Zeker, Anon, Amro B, Gresmy, Wolfpack Omega, Cicero, Adam S, Bad Badger, Theta, Decimo. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? Ling Chen asked as he gently shook her, his heart in pain. Recalling all of her smiles and laughter, he suddenly realized how those were just masks to cover up the pain and sadness within her heart. The Vermillion bird said that it was rare for those with flame souls to live past the age of 20, and Xiaoqi's current state, could it be that her heavenly sun arteries was the flame soul mentioned by the Vermillion bird? Xiaoqi shook her head and softly replied, only a few people know about this apart from my family. Even big sister Meng Xian and Su Su only found out 3 years ago. I wanted to hide this from you all, because I didn't want you guys to worry about me. After all, it's impossible to change my destiny. Plus, Xiaoqi looked up, a slight smile on her face, what's so bad about living until I'm 20? Because my life is going to be shorter than everyone else's, within this period of time, I'm going to live better and happier than anyone else. I'm going to smile and laugh every day, even more than everyone else. I have the best sisters in the world, Meng Xian and Su Su, and they will always be by my side. I also have a wonderful family. My dad and big brother treat me so well, and they always try to satisfy my demands no matter how outrageous they are. My big brother said that I'm his only little sister, so if anyone dares to bully me, he'll rip them to shreds. And now, I also have big brother Ling Tian. Big brother Ling Tian, did you know, your appearance caused my world to become even brighter and more colorful. Just then, while we were riding, although the wind was quite strong, I had a very peaceful and satisfying sleep because I was able to lean against big brother Ling Tian. It was so comfortable sleeping like that, and I wanted to keep sleeping like that and never wake up. To have all of you by my side, even if I had to die immediately, I wouldn't be afraid, so, don't say silly things. Who said you'll die? In this world, there's no such thing as an incurable illness, and nothing is absolute. There's definitely a way to cure your heavenly sun arteries, it's just that no one has found it yet. You're not allowed to say such things anymore. Ling Chen loudly replied as he cut her off. Due to his experiences in heaven and hell, which left him with only hatred and a desire for vengeance, Ling Chen's blood had become completely cold. In his world, there was no such thing as compassion, sympathy, or kindness. To him, life was completely meaningless and worthless. However, after meeting Shui Ruo, his icy heart had been gradually melted, until he was like a normal person again. However, his emotions and care would only be for those who were closest to him, everything and everyone else would still be met with his coldness. At this moment, upon feeling those complex emotions, Ling Chen suddenly realized that the girl in front of him had unknowingly become an important person to him. Due to fate, they had been brought together in Heart's dream. They hadn't known each other for a long time, but they grew closer and closer each time they interacted. Yunmeng Xian, Shao Qi and Su'er all had prestigious backgrounds, as well as world-class beauty and beautiful and pure personalities. None of them had the arrogance and shallowness of most high-class ladies. As the saying went, birds of a feather flock together. Only girls like Shao Qi and Su'er could become close to someone like Meng Xian. Heart's dream was created by and for Meng Xian, but he deeply liked and cared for each of the girls in Heart's dream. He enjoyed the feeling of working together with them towards a common goal. Finding out about Shao Qi's condition had created massive waves within his heart. Shao Qi smiled cheerfully, "Big brother Ling Tian, for you to care so much about me, I'm really, really happy. However, you really don't need to worry about me. Being with you guys makes me incredibly happy. Even though I don't want to leave you all, but if that day comes, I won't be afraid, because I have all of you." Ling Chen gripped his fists together, and gently breathed in. He looked at her determinedly in the eyes, "I won't allow you to die. Meng Xian, Bing Yao, Shui Ruo and Tian Tian won't let you leave them either. Our Heart's dream has only come together for a short while, so we need you to work hard with us. Trust me, there'll definitely be a way. Ahem, saving her is but a simple matter. Don't you remember what I told you a few days ago?" After listening to them for a while, the Vermillion bird finally spoke out. Ling Chen looked up and asked while frowning, "Vermillion bird, is Shao Qi's heavenly son Arteries the flame soul you were talking about?" "Heavenly son Arteries? Nonsense, her condition has nothing to do with her arteries or heart. The fire within her body comes from her flame soul. Only about 1 in 1 trillion people possess a flame soul. To you humans, the flame soul can be a horrible curse or a great blessing. If the flame soul cannot be controlled, and it is allowed to flare up, then the person will not live past 20 years of age. However, if it can be controlled, then that person's accomplishments with fire will be something no one else can even dream to match up to. Moreover, the flame soul can also refine and strengthen her body, allowing her to live thousands, or even more than 10,000 years. However, it's almost impossible for humans to control fire. Despite this, with my help, this will be an incredibly simple task. If you want to save her, then leave her here. Inheriting my Vermillion bird's flames will not harm her, but will rather be the greatest blessing of her life. With my flames and her flame soul, she will be incomparable in wielding fire." Ling Chen, Shao Qi, after the Vermillion bird finished talking, Ling Chen and Shao Qi could only stare mutely. "What? You are unwilling? Countless creatures have begged me for even a bit of my flames, but I refused each and every one of them. If it wasn't to save the Golden Crow's descendant, why would I pass on my clan's flames to a human? What reason would you have to refuse my Vermillion bird's flames? No, you're mistaken. To be able to receive the inheritance and blessing of a god beast is something that we could only dream of. Why would we be unwilling? However, there are some circumstances that prevent us from agreeing immediately," Ling Chen said as he glanced at Shao Qi. "We're not like you, as we come from a different world. What you just said might not apply to us players." Virtual games had already developed to an extraordinary level, and the NPCs in virtual games were often just as smart and intelligent as humans. Within the games, NPCs acted and spoke exactly like real humans, and some were even more intelligent than most humans. However, in the end, they were still NPCs within games. Shao Qi's illness had not been cured after so many years, despite all the efforts of her family. Now, a creature within a virtual game made by humans said that it could easily save her, as well as allow her to live for thousands of years. Any player who heard these words would be skeptical, even if the creature that said these words was the incredibly powerful and majestic god-beast, the Vermillion bird. I know you are humans from another world, but what of it? What difference does it make? The Vermillion bird asked in reply. Ling Chen wasn't quite sure how to answer the Vermillion bird. He thought for a while before replying, as players, only our consciousness enters the game. The bodies you see are not our real bodies. Do you know why it is called the flame soul? The Vermillion bird once again asked. Ling Chen shook his head. The flame soul is a soul of the fire element. Human souls usually do not belong to any element, but her soul belongs to the fire element. What I require is this sort of soul. Though you live in a different world, what comes here is your very soul. What I will give her is the origin flames of my Vermillion bird's flames, as well as the memories for how to control the flames. All of these things only require her soul. Why would I need her real body? But, although he couldn't completely accept it, Ling Chen couldn't rebut what it was saying. However, no matter how logical it all seemed, a creature in a virtual world said that it could save her, as well as let her live thousands of years. Any rational person wouldn't be able to accept and believe such a thing easily. You need my help, and I need your help. I have no reason to deceive you or set up a trap for you. She has, at most, half a year left. This period of time is when the flame soul is the most active. If she inherits my flames during this period of time, the inheritance which would usually take a few years can be finished within a few months. If you believe me, then let her stay here. I will keep my promise and save the Golden Crow's descendant while carrying out the inheritance. If you don't believe me, I won't force you to, and you will be free to leave. As a god beast and the guardian beast of the Vermillion Bird City, why would it trick players like them? Not only could it save Shao-Chi, it would also give her its flames. This was something most players could only dream of. This was one of the 4 god beasts. Moreover, it wanted to find a person with a flame soul because it wanted to save Ling Chen could not find any reason to refuse. He turned around and looked at Shao-Chi calmly as he softly said, Chi, do you believe in miracles? Shao-Chi blinked a few times. Although he was wearing a mask, it was as if she could see his expression and understood what he was thinking. She gently nodded, of course I believe in miracles. After all, Big Brother Ling Tian has created so many already. In that case, do you want to stay here? Maybe a miracle really will happen. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Anon, Lord_of_Fapping, Dryzak, Shabalabak, Woody Wooching, Norwegian Viking, Zero Mass, Pickles the Drummer, Kazakavoth, Angel, Thugdeer, Agile_Shah, Anthony Folkeston, Zeker, Anon, Amro B, Gresmy, Wolfpack Omega, Janaf, Cicero, Adam S, Bad Badger, Theta, Decimo. How long will it take to finish the inheritance then? Under normal circumstances, 3 to 5 years. However, since your flame soul is at its peak, it'll take less than 1 year. If your talent is exceptional, and you fully cooperate, it's possible that the inheritance can take half a year. The Vermillion bird replied. Ah, such a long time. Ling Chen frowned as he asked, Vermillion bird, if it takes that long, then, I know what you're worried about. Don't worry, saving the Golden Crow's descendant requires my origin flames, as does the inheritance. They can happen simultaneously. During the inheritance, both she and the Golden Crow's descendant will bathe in my origin flames. When the inheritance has finished, she will be saved and the Golden Crow's descendant will not only be revived, but will also be more powerful than before. This answer allowed Ling Chen to let go of his worries. He looked at Shao-Chi. If she made this decision, she would have to stay here for a long time. It was possible to stay online for a whole year, with the current technology. However, only the most crazy players would do such a thing. In the end, humans were meant to exist in the real world. Staying online for a whole year would make one's family worry unceasingly about them. Moreover, not moving around for such a long time could even damage one's body. If I inherit the Vermillion bird's flames, will I become more powerful? Shao Qi asked as she raised her head. After inheriting my Vermillion bird's flames, you will become the first daughter of Vermillion bird. Like I said before, if you can attain mastery over the Vermillion bird's flames, you will be unparalleled among the humans in terms of wielding fire. Moreover, the biggest benefits you'll receive is that you'll no longer be plagued with the pain from your flame soul, but instead will be able to use it as you please. Moreover, you'll receive a lifespan far longer than that of normal humans. The Vermillion bird replied. On Earth, the longest a human had ever lived was 126 years old. Even though technology and medicine had advanced by so much, humans had never been able to break this record. The Vermillion bird had said that if someone with a flame soul inherited its flames, they could live up to tens of thousands of years. Who could believe such a thing? However, Ling Chen suddenly remembered what had happened when he had first touched the lunar scourge. The memory of the lunar scourge trying to devour his consciousness was still vivid, and that realistic feeling was something he couldn't forget. At that time, he had felt that there was something different about this game. It was because of this that he didn't completely undermine the Vermillion bird's words. As such, he put his hands on Shao Qi's shoulders, and looked into her eyes, as he said, "Qi Qi, in this world, there are many inconceivable things. Many things that seem impossible, are actually quite possible. The heavenly sun arteries has never been successfully cured before, but there's now a solution that can potentially perfectly cure it for you. Although it sounds too good to be true, but we have no other choice. Perhaps, a miracle will happen, and you really do get better. Of course, this is your own decision. I will support whatever choice you make. I want to believe that a miracle will happen. But, she hesitated, and looked at the Vermillion bird. Can you give me some time to think about it and let my family know? If I stay online for such a long time, my family and friends will worry about me. I want to have some time to properly think about this and explain to them. Of course. However, you must decide within 1 month. If you don't appear within 1 month, we'll pretend none of this happened. A red light flashed, and a crimson-red feather floated down into Shao Qi's hands. When you've made your decision, come to this place and shout my name to this feather. I hope that you will make your decision quickly. The Vermillion bird's voice faded as its phantasm also disappeared. Big brother Ling Tian, if I really only have half a year left, I want to spend it with all of you. That way, even if I pass away, I won't be lonely, and I'll definitely pass away happily. If I stay here, I might never be able to see you all again. Although she was hoping for a miracle, but in the end, everything they had just heard was said by a beast within a virtual game. Any rational person would find it difficult to believe such a thing could happen. Moreover, this disease had never been cured, and yet now she was being told it could be easily cured just from staying inside the game, and that she would be able to live for thousands of years if successful. Shao Qi didn't want to risk wasting the rest of her lifespan here, without her friends and family. Shao Qi's words told Ling Chen her answer. If the inheritance only took a few days, then she would be willing to try it out. But at the very least, it would take half a year, which was difficult for her to accept. Ling Chen patted her on the shoulder and smiled. I said that I would support your decision, no matter what. Don't worry, you're our important friend, we definitely won't let you leave us like this. It's just a little disease, so I'm sure there's some way to cure it. We'll definitely find it. So in future, you're not allowed to talk about things like passing away, alright? Okay. Shao Qi replied as she smiled. Alright, let's go then. Since Shao Qi was unwilling to stay here, the Vermillion bird would not save Shi Ling. Ling Chen didn't tell Shao Qi about Shi Ling, so that she wouldn't feel any guilt or indecision. He would have to find another way to save Shi Ling. Shi Ling had lost her life because of him, so he couldn't give up no matter what. He also didn't want anything to happen to Shao Qi either. After they returned to the Azure Dragon City, Shaoqi went to the forest region to find Shui Ruo and the others. Ling Chen went to an empty alleyway and spoke into the communication device. Have you heard of the disease, Heavenly Sun Arteries before? No, look for information on this disease, and see if there's any way to treat it. I want results as soon as possible. Roger. Afterwards, Ling Chen thought for a moment before contacting Yun Feng and asking him the same question. After all, Yun Feng was the successor to the Yun family, so he might have access to information normal people didn't. Heavenly Sun Arteries, oh, did you find out about Shaoqi? AI, Yun Feng sighed as he spoke. Actually, this isn't a secret anymore within the high-ranking circles in China. As such, no one dares to bother the big miss of the Shao family, including Long Tianyun. Because of her disease, she won't live past 20, and so Shao Zhan and Shao Qiufeng are extremely doting towards her. It is said that offending Shaoqi is even worse than raising down the entire battle alliance. Even now, the leading medical experts have not been able to find a cure for the disease. One possibility is that it's simply incurable, as it doesn't affect a single region of the body, but every cell. Unless every single cell in her body is replaced, it's simply impossible. I see, thanks. Ling Chen said as he prepared to hang up. Aw, don't hang up, there's something I need to talk to you about. What is it? Ling Chen asked. Worried that Ling Chen might hang up on him at any moment, Yun Feng quickly talked. The Yan-Huang Alliance's celebration concluded on a brilliant note, and the attendance was overwhelming. From tomorrow onwards, the Yan-Huang Alliance will start expanding to towns and villages near the Azure Dragon City, slowly extending their reach. Oh, this isn't the point. What I was going to say is that it's getting closer and closer to 1 month since Heart's Dream was established, and the protection period is almost over. Although Heart's Dream has been keeping a low profile, and has not been actively recruiting members, it's still sitting in the number 1 position on the guild rankings. The Yan-Huang Alliance definitely won't be satisfied with being number 2. As such, Long Tianyun will immediately move to destroy Heart's Dream, so his Yan-Huang Alliance can once again rise to the top spot. Even if the 9 other guilds of the 10 largest guilds formed an alliance, they wouldn't be able to do anything to them, so please be careful. Even though Ling Chen could easily escape from an army of thousands of people, if the Yan-Huang Alliance wanted to destroy a guild, even 1,000 Ling Chens would not be enough to protect it. Of course, Ling Chen had thought about this in the past, and he replied, "Yep, got it. Also, your level will rise very quickly," Ling Chen said as he hung up. The Heavenly Sun Arteries was a disease of diseases, and Yun Feng's response very clearly told him that it was simply incurable. If there was a person who could cure Shaoqi though. Ling Chen thought of a person, who he had also thought of when Shui Ruo contracted the Isrock disease, the mad scientist. That mad scientist was a genius of geniuses. Although he called himself the mad scientist, he also called himself the god of humans. Humans still had not found a way to cure the Isrock disease, and yet the mad scientist had easily found a cure. He simply didn't know where the mad scientist was hiding, or if he had already died. Over the past few years, he had tried to forget about the mad scientist's existence, because he was simply too terrifying. He didn't have any fighting abilities, and was incredibly weak and skinny, but his existence was like 100 nuclear bombs that could go off at any moment. This made it difficult for Ling Chen to relax without having confirmed whether he was dead or not. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Anon, Lord_of_Fapping, Dryzak, Shabalabak, Norwegian Viking, Zero Mass, Pickles the Drummer, Kazakavoth, Thugdeer, Wolfpack Omega, Agile_Shah, Anthony Folkeston, Zeker, Anon, Amro B, Gresmy, Janaf, Cicero, Adam S, Bad Badger, Theta, Decimo. That feeling just then. Just a bit more, a little bit more, I have to succeed this time. Tian touched her hands together and bit her lips, her face fully serious. She deeply inhaled, as she pointed at the cup with her right hand and held her breath. After a long while, when her little face became red, she opened her mouth, yelling, "Marvel at Tion's power, turn into two." Under the sunlight, a mysterious light shone, which became blindingly bright. In front of Tion, another glass cup, exactly the same as the original one, had appeared next to the original one. Wah! Tion stared for a while before standing up with a whoosh and excitedly yelling, "I did it, I did it." Her little face became red from excitement, and she carefully picked up the two glass cups to examine them closely. She ran into the dining room with both cups in hand, yelling at Ling Chen and Shura, "Big brother, big sister, look at this." Ling Chen was lying on the sofa, reading through a story book. In order to be able to tell Ling stories every day, he had to start reading story books. He soon found that they were actually quite interesting. Hearing Tion's yelling, Ling Chen looked over, and saw Tion rushing over like a hurricane. He sighed inwardly. It seemed that today's piece was over. Ling Chen put down the book and asked, "What are you so excited about? I hope you're not going to drag me to play video games." "Big brother, look." Tion carefully put the two glass cups on the table, and excitedly pointed at them, "Look, I turned it into two. My magic is coming back. Awesome, awesome." Ling Chen could feel his face twitching. "Bullcrap, we already had two of these anyways. You're way too inexperienced at conning people." Ling Chen immediately revealed a mock expression of shock as he exclaimed, "Wow! You turned one cup into two. Tion's so amazing. No less expected from the Demon Queen herself. Tion needs to work hard to recover her magic, so she'll be invincible." Tion was in high spirits and she vigorously nodded her head. She stretched out her hand as she said, "Big brother, I'll show you my magic. I'll turn these two cups into three, watch." After speaking, little Tion stretched out her hand and yelled, "Turn into three." 1 second passed. 3 seconds passed. 5 seconds passed. A tumbleweed blew past. But nothing happened. Ling Chen, awe. Little Tion stared at the cups in disbelief. It worked just then, so why isn't it working anymore? I'll try again. Turn into three. Turn into three. Ahem, Tion, Ling Chen simply couldn't take it anymore, and he tried to help Tion, who was almost at the verge of crying, get back some of her pride. "You just regained a little bit of your magic, and you just used it not too long ago. If you don't properly rest before trying again, it definitely won't work. Don't worry, it'll definitely work tomorrow. Plus, since your magic has started recovering, it'll definitely become stronger and stronger as time goes on." Hearing Ling Chen's very logical explanation, little Tion did not feel embarrassed anymore, and instead nodded her head, Yep, big brother's right. It must be like this. I thought I lost my magic just as I regained it. I'll perform my magic for big brother tomorrow then. I'm going to go tell big sister now." Tion picked up the two glass cups and ran into the kitchen. Shortly after, the two girls' voices could be heard, big sister, look, some of my magic has come back and I turned this cup into two cups." Ling Chen knew just how doting Shura was of Tion, and could already predict what her reaction would be. As expected. "Wow! Tion's amazing. Can you teach big sister sometime?" I don't think I can." "Alright, that's okay. Then big sister will teach you how to cook, alright?" Shura skillfully redirected the topic to cooking. "Woo, can I please not learn? Cooking's so hard and I'm so bad at it." "No way, Tion has been improving by a lot, and even big brother says so. Plus, if Tion learns how to cook, she can cook whatever she wants, whenever she wants. If one day I'm not at home, Tion can still cook for big brother, and Big Brother will like Tian even more. But I've learned from Big Sister so many times, and yet what I make is still so yucky. Looking at the clock on the wall, Ling Chen put down the storybook he was reading and quickly sent a text on his phone. He got up and walked into the kitchen, announcing, "All right, let's go out for a picnic today." A picnic? Wow, really? Yay! Yay! Tian, who had been unwillingly forced into cooking again, happily jumped up and down. Shura smiled as she saw Tian like this. She put down the knife in her hands and said, "Big Brother, it's already lunchtime, and preparing a picnic will take a long time. How about we have the picnic in the afternoon? Don't worry, everything's been prepared already and the location has also been chosen. We'll leave after getting changed." 10 minutes later, the three of them walked out and a large and luxurious SUV was parked outside. "Let's go. Everything has already been prepared: food, drinks, chairs, barbecue equipment, and a tent apparently." Ling Chen and Shura held each of Tian's hands as they walked towards the car. A man wearing a cap walked out of the side seat and opened the door for them, then respectfully stood to one side. "Wow! Such a cool car. Big Sister, is this our car? Are these two uncles Big Brother's friends?" "They're Big Brother's friends. Let's get on the car," Shura said as she smiled, and helped Tian onto the car. Shura had never met these two people before, but she could guess who they were. Before, Ling Chen had never told her about his past, or about the powerful organization controlled by Ling Chen, an organization filled with monsters who had walked out from hell. Ling Chen had only told Shura about all of this after the incident with the Sword Emperor. This was the first time she had met these people. Seeing this, Shura didn't feel the need to ask anything. On the way, the two men in the front didn't say a single word. Without Ling Chen saying anything, they didn't dare to say anything. They were two of the people always secretly monitoring the house, and their sole job was to protect Shura. All of them knew just how important Shura was to Ling Chen, although it seemed like a very easy job, but it was an incredibly important one. The one who spoke the most was Tian. After getting on the car, she simply couldn't calm down. She would glance out both windows, and would even sometimes try to stick her head out the window, giving Shura a scare. Many of the things said by her caused even the two men in the front to almost laugh out loud. Seeing Shura fretting so much over Tian, Ling Chen sighed in amazement. Shura was only 16 years old, and was still somewhat a child herself. She liked pretty clothes, eating ice cream, being piggybacked by him, as well as hugging her pillow while rolling around on the bed. However, after Tian had joined them, in order to look after Tian, she had gradually matured and became more and more adult-like. In front of Tian, she would not do any of the childish things she used to do in front of Ling Chen. There was a saying that a man or woman only truly matured after having a child. Shura's changes were evidently because she saw Tian as her own daughter. After nearly an hour, they had reached their destination. Ling Chen had originally wanted to go to a park on the top of a mountain, but then suddenly thought of the place they had gone to for their first picnic after Ling Chen had joined Shura's family. After Shura had contracted the Isrock disease, they had not gone out for a picnic. As such, he wanted to find a comfortable place where there would not be anyone else. This was a small forest with a stream nearby. The sounds of birds and insects, as well as flowing water, filled the air. It was an incredibly peaceful and relaxing area, and it didn't seem like there were any other people around. Thank you to our Patreon supporters: Anon, Lord _of_Fapping, Dryzak, Shabalabak, Norwegian Viking, Zero Mass, Pickles the Drummer, Kazakavoth, Thugdeer, Wolfpack Omega, Agile _Shah, Anthony Folkeston, Zeker, Anon, Amro B, Gresmy, Janaf, Cicero, Adam S, Bad Badger, Theta, Decimo. Tian Tian, do you want water or juice? Tian Tian, you can barbecue what you want to eat. This is beef, this is lamb, this is a mushroom. Although she was teaching Tian Tian how to barbecue her own food, it was still Shura doing most of the work. Seeing this scene, and remembering how it was him who had enjoyed this treatment in the past, Ling Chen felt a bit jealous. However, he could only smile and ask what Tian Tian wanted to eat as he also served this little ancestor. This is pepper, this is chili powder, this is salt, this is mustard sauce. Don't get them mixed up, Shura said as she pointed out the different condiments to Tian Tian. Actually, let's take out the mustard sauce, I think so too. Ling Chen said as he put away the bottle of mustard sauce. They had already had enough mustard sauce for a lifetime. To Tian Tian, this was one of the happiest times of her life. Sitting outdoors in between Ling Chen and Shura, breathing in the refreshing air, and smelling the delicious meat on the barbecue made her feel incredibly content. She rubbed her hands together as she continuously eyed the barbecue, swallowing her saliva as she asked, "Can we eat yet? Is it ready yet? Why is it taking so long?" You need to be patient, Tian Tian. It takes a long time when you first start the fire, but it'll be done soon. Shura said as she smiled at Tian Tian. The last time she had come out on a picnic was a long, long time ago. She had suffered from the Isrock disease for 3 years, and had missed out much during those 3 years. However, that horrible nightmare had passed, and with Big Brother and Tian Tian by her side, life was simply perfect. Seeing Tian Tian's saliva leaking out of her mouth, she laughed and asked, "Tian Tian, do you want to hear about Big Brother's past?" Ling Chen tapped on his nose. He was sure that Tian Tian would be interested. Sure, tell me, big sister. Did Big Brother often bully Big Sister as well? Tian Tian's interest was immediately piqued, and she looked from the food over to Shura. Actually, I was found by your big sister, just like we found Tian Tian. Ling Chen said as he put down his bottle of juice. Tian Tian looked at Ling Chen with her mouth wide open. Big sister, found Big Brother? That's right, on the streets. Shura glanced over at Ling Chen and smiled. Did you know, Tian Tian, the first time I saw Big Brother, he was lying on the ground like you. It was very hot that day, and I felt very sorry for him. I went over and woke him up. His body was in terrible shape, and he was very thirsty, so I gave him some of my drink. He drank it all almost immediately. Ling Chen finished the bottle of juice in his hand as he listened. He knew that in this lifetime, he would never be able to drink such a delicious drink ever again. And then? Tian Tian grasped Shura's hand as she asked. Big Brother said he didn't have a home, so we took him home with us. Dad was the best doctor in the world, so after being taken care of by my mom and dad, Big Brother recovered quite quickly. Did you know, Tian Tian, when I was younger, I always admired girls with big brothers. Big brothers could look after their sisters, play with them, and protect them. As such, I always wanted a big brother. When Big Brother got better, I asked Mom and Dad to let Big Brother stay, but they were against the idea. However, the day after that, when they got home, Big Brother had made a whole table of food for us to eat. The food Big Brother makes is incredibly delicious, and Mom and Dad said it was the best meal of their lives. They even asked Big Brother if he was a world-renowned chef. World-renowned chef? What's that? Is it something amazing? Tian Tian asked with her head tilted. They're very amazing. After Big Brother got better, every time Mom and Dad got home, he would have already finished cooking. When I finished school, Big Brother would always play with me and help me study. Big Brother is really smart and knows a lot. As soon as Big Brother explains something to me, I can understand it almost immediately. With Big Brother by my side, even the subjects that I hated became fun. At the end of the year, I got the top marks in my grade. Over that period of time, I grew closer and closer to Big Brother, and Mom and Dad liked him more and more, and didn't oppose him staying anymore. When recounting these things from the past, Shui Ruo's face was filled with happiness and bliss. Ling Chen and Tian silently listened. That year, he had failed at getting revenge, and had almost lost his life. When he recovered, he had prepared to once again carry out his revenge, to destroy the Long family, and nothing could stand in his way. However, Shui Ruo had changed all of that. In just a few short days, he had been smitten by this angelic girl, and his frozen heart began to thaw. In the end, he was unwilling to leave, and even began to give up on his revenge. Later on, through his extraordinary hearing, he heard Shui Ruo crying and begging her parents to let him stay, and he completely gave in, deciding to stay. He even began to think of ways to let her parents give permission for him to stay. He had always believed that there was something magical about Shui Ruo that made people unable to resist her. Ah, so Big Brother was also found by Big Sister. Big Brother, why were you lying on the ground when Big Sister found you? Did you also fall from the sky, like me? Tian grabbed Ling Chen as she asked. Ling Chen opened a can of soft drink as he said, that was because I was fighting with some people. They had a lot of people, and I was fighting them alone. After fighting for a long time, I couldn't beat them, so I ran and ran until I collapsed. Although Ling Chen had casually described what had happened in a few sentences, Shui Ruo knew just how terrible that day's events had been. She didn't give Tian a chance to ask for further details as she put a few kebabs on Tian's plate. Tian, the kebabs are ready for you to eat now. They smell good, don't they? They smell so good. The starving Tian ravenously devoured the kebabs in the blink of an eye. This was the first time she had been to a barbecue, and the taste of the barbecued food was like heaven. Tian's appetite had always been extraordinarily large, so they brought a lot of food. Tian's plate was heaped with food and Shui Ruo patted her on the head. Take your time, there's lots to eat. Big Brother, you should eat too. I want to hear about Big Sister and Big Brother in the past, Tian said, with her mouth full of meat. Okay. Ling Chen closed his eyes as he listened to Tian devour her food while Shui Ruo continued to tell their story. The time had passed very quickly, and although Tian had ate most of the food, they all felt very satisfied. To Ling Chen, as long as Shui Ruo was healthy and safe, everything was perfect. Most of the food that had been brought was now safely stored in Tian's stomach. Tian looked at Shui Ruo, then Ling Chen, and smiled. Big Brother was found by Big Sister, and Tian was also found by Sister. Hee, this is so interesting. Big Brother was found by Big Sister, and will be with her forever, so since Tian was also found by Big Sister, will Tian also be with Big Sister and Big Brother forever? Tian asked, her face full of expectation. Ling Chen and Shui Ruo laughed. Shui Ruo held Tian's right hand, and also pulled Ling Chen's left hand over, with their three hands together as she said, we've already become a family, so of course we'll all be together forever. Forever and ever. Ling Chen added. Tian could feel her eyes getting wet, and she vigorously nodded, then, it's a promise. We're all going to be together forever. Neither Big Brother nor Big Sister can ever leave Tian. By now, Tian had already become an important part of their lives. Who would have thought that this little girl who had barged into their lives would one day become so important to them? After they finished their food, they were still unwilling to leave. Shui Ruo took out a small knife, and was about to peel an apple for Tian to eat, but Ling Chen took it from her. Let me do it. Shui Ruo knew that he was worried that she might accidentally cut herself, so she gently smiled and handed it over to him. Ling Chen's control with knives was simply legendary. The peels from fruits that he had peeled could be called masterpieces. Tian, are you tired? Ling Chen asked as he peeled the apple. After having so much food, it was natural for one to feel tired and sleepy. Not at all. Tian shook her head then looked around her. She suddenly asked, Big brother, where are those two uncles who came with us? Did they go home? No, they're not too far away. If you yell loudly, they'll be able to hear you. Why didn't they have food with us then? I'm sure they're hungry after waiting for us for so long. Tian asked. Don't worry, they brought their own FO-. Ling Chen suddenly stopped talking as his entire body shuddered. He momentarily lost control of the knife, and it cut towards his finger. Ah! Seeing this, Shui Ruo cried out in surprise and hurriedly looked at Ling Chen's finger. Big brother, did you hurt yourself? There was not even a scratch, let alone a cut on Ling Chen's finger. He casually replied, Don't worry, I can't be hurt that easily. That scared me. Shui Ruo said as she breathed out in relief. This was the first time she had seen such a thing happen to Ling Chen. Ling Chen silently finished peeling the apple, and he handed it to Tian. However, he kept the small knife in his hands. Tian happily ate the apple as she pointed at the forest to the south. Big brother, can we go there to play? Big sister says there are lots of cute animals there. Shui Ruo looked at him, waiting for his answer. Ling Chen picked up his phone and pressed a few buttons, then shook his head as he calmly replied, Ruo, it's getting late, so you should take Tian home. Shui Ruo could immediately tell that something was wrong. What about you? There's something I need to take care of by myself. You and Tian go home first, I'll head back later. Ling Chen replied, before he softly added, This is very important, please do as I say. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Anon, Lord_of_Fapping, Dryzak, Shabalabak, Norwegian Viking, Zero Mass, Pickles the Drummer, Kazakavoth, Thug Deer, Wolfpack Omega, Agile_Shah, Anthony Folkeston, Zeker, Anon, Amro B, Gresmy, Janaf, Cicero, Adam S, Bad Badger, Theta, Decimo. Why do you want me and Big Sister to leave first? Does Big Brother have something to do? Tian asked, unable to read the atmosphere. Not too far away, the car that had brought them here slowly drove closer, and then stopped next to them. Shui Ruo picked up Tian and softly said, Let's listen to Big Brother and go back first. I'm sure Big Brother has important things to take care of. Oh. Tian was curious, but seeing the way Shui Ruo and Ling Chen acted, she decided to be obedient and go home with Shui Ruo. Ruo, Tian. Ling Chen suddenly called out to them. He walked over, and looked into Shui Ruo's trembling eyes. He smiled, and said, Don't worry, I'll be home soon. If you're tired, have a nap on the car. Who knows, I might even get home before you guys. Shui Ruo nodded, and her lips became a bit paler. Ling Chen bent down and gently stroked Tian's hair as he gently said, Tian, make sure you listen to Big Sister, alright? This was the first time Ling Chen had been so gentle and warm to Tian, which surprised her. She lifted her nose as she said, I always listen to Big Sister. Big brother, you're acting very strangely right now. It's because I'm afraid that you might not listen to Big Sister and make her angry while I'm not there. Ling Chen said as he chuckled. I like Big Sister. I'd never make her angry. Alright, that's good. Ling Chen picked up Tian, and put her in the car. Shui Ruo also got into the car, and looked at Ling Chen. She bit her lips as she softly said, Big brother, you'll definitely come back safe, right? Ling Chen smiled, don't be silly. I just want to meet an old friend of mine for a bit. There's nothing to be worried about. Alright, you guys get home first. I'll be there soon. After he finished talking, he made a hand gesture and the door was closed by one of the two uncles. As the man returned to the side seat, Ling Chen said to him in a voice that only he could hear, "Send them home and make full defense preparations. I've got something important to do here, so make sure you protect them properly when you get back. Before I go back, no one's allowed to come here or contact me. Am I understood?" "Roger," the man replied. The car's engine rumbled to life, and they slowly drove away. Ling Chen silently watched the car disappear into the distance. "Wait for me at home. I'll be there soon. I'll definitely come back." On the car, when Shui Ruo could no longer see Ling Chen, she turned and hugged Tian Tian tightly. "Big sister? Are you alright? Are you sleepy?" Big sister, your hands are so cold, and there's so much sweat." Tian Tian was scared by how cold Shui Ruo's hands were. Shui Ruo spoke with a very weak voice, "I'm just feel a bit cold." "Tian Tian, let me hug you for a bit." Shui Ruo's entire body was quite cold now, and her heartbeat was irregular. The ominous feeling about what was about to happen left her incredibly nervous and scared. At the front, the two men looked at each other and frowned. This was the first time Ling Chen had separated from Shui Ruo in such a way. Bang! Ling Chen forcefully crushed the phone and threw it into the stream. He took out the keys in his pocket, and crushed them as well, then threw them away. He gripped the small knife in his left hand, and deeply breathed in and out. His gaze turned cold and serious, as a malevolent aura burst out from within him. He stared in front of him and smirked as he coldly said, "Come out." Just as he spoke, the sounds from the birds and insects immediately stopped. His surroundings became deathly silent, as if he had stepped into a different world. The warm air suddenly turned icy cold, and if a normal person was standing there, they would have curled up in a ball as they shivered. Whoosh! Countless birds and insects filled the air as they madly rushed away. The sky was suddenly covered with countless black dots, which were fleeing in every direction. Ling Chen looked up, then looked back in front of him. About 10 steps away, a dark shadow had appeared incredibly stealthily. With all the birds and insects gone, the forest suddenly felt even more quiet, and even the air felt like it had stopped moving. This sort of scene only appeared in movies, and people definitely wouldn't believe a single person could cause such a thing. Ling Chen's hands were tightly gripped into fists as he stared at the black shadow. He spoke in a low voice, You're still alive." The person was tall and well-built, and was wearing an ordinary-looking cloak. All that could be seen was his savage-looking eyes. Ling Chen was incredibly familiar with these eyes. In this world, there were only two people who could make him feel fear. One was the mad scientist, and the other person was the one standing in front of him. He was meant to be dead. Ling Chen had definitely killed him all those years ago. "Did you know that I wasn't dead?" The man coldly replied. This incredibly raspy and coarse voice was very unpleasant to listen to. Ling Chen's voice was equally as cold as he replied, "You told me to never believe that someone was dead without seeing their corpse. Back then, we blew up your right hand, and with your remaining hand, you had battled with us, but lost about half of your blood. We stabbed you in 3 fatal areas, with your heart as the last one. A normal person would have died more than 10 times. However, when you fell into the sea, we thought that you were dead. All these years, you've been a blight in my life, making it so that I could never relax. This was because we never found your corpse, and because you are hell. Someone who the mad scientist called a god among humans. I knew that you wouldn't die so easily." That's right, back then, his right hand had been caught in an explosion, his right eye had been pierced and Eve cut off his entire right arm. However, this person evidently had 2 eyes. And under his cloak, it seemed that he had 2 arms. What was going on? This person evidently had Hell's aura. No one in the world could possibly copy or mimic this terrifying aura. Ha ha ha. The man laughed in a low voice. His voice was even more disgusting and terrifying than that of a demon's, no less than expected from the strongest killing machine I raised, someone who was able to escape from the mad scientist's control. You can actually remain so calm after meeting me. To be honest, I didn't want to see you trembling in fear. After all, the person who can kill me can't just be a piece of trash. I'm very pleased with you, Adam. I'm called Ling Chen. The Adam you knew is dead. Ling Chen spat. Ling Chen? Heh, the man coldly laughed. I'm disappointed that you've started to live as an ordinary person. The Reaper that I shaped has given up his identity as Adam, and has taken an ordinary human's name, and even has human emotions now. The current you has no point in living anymore. Humph, cut the crap. Since you've come here, only one of us can leave here alive. Let's finish this quickly. I want to get home soon. Ling Chen coldly laughed as he prepared the knife in his hands. That's right, only one of us can leave here alive. But do you think it'll be me or you? Ling Chen's forehead was already covered in cold sweat. I taught you that in order to kill you target, you should use any measures. You and Eve followed this lesson very well, by blowing my hand off, then continuously attacking me while I lost blood. In the end, because I had lost too much blood, you were able to defeat me. It was a cowardly and low move, but it was effective. When I was falling into the sea, even I thought that I was definitely going to die, but it's a pity for you that I'm back. And not only am I back, but my eyes are even better and I have more strength than before. My body is more than 10, even 100 times, stronger than steel. The man raised his arm and pointed at Ling Chen. As for you, after 6 years, no matter if it's your body or your skills, you haven't improved at all. In fact, you've been declining, which I'm very disappointed about. Even if you're 10 times stronger, you won't be able to survive. Now, it's time for my revenge. Ling Chen knew that the man's words were not exaggerated at all. He was at least 2 to 3 times stronger than he had been back then. As for Ling Chen, he had been taking care of Shura this whole time, and had not fought at all for the past 6 years. His strength, speed, skills, reaction time had all been on the decline. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Anon, Lord_of_Fapping, Dryzak, Shabalabak, Norwegian Viking, Zeromass, Pickles the Drummer, Kazakavoth, Thugdeer, Wolfpack Omega, Agile_Shah, Anthony Folkestone, Zeker, Anon, Amro B, Gresmy, Janaf, Cicero, Adam S, Bad Badger, Theta, Decimo. Right now, it was just him against Hell, who was even stronger than before. Inside his mind, Ling Chen was calculating the chances of his victory. 0. Ling Chen was sensitive to one's aura and pressure, and he immediately knew how overwhelmingly powerful Hell was. As such, he immediately ordered everyone to leave, as well as for them not to contact him or come to find him. Even if the others came, it would simply be suicide for them. Heh, you seem like you don't want to die. Is it because of those 2 girls? The man coldly laughed. Ling Chen's face stiffened, and his voice became even colder. If you dare to do anything to them, even if I'm dead, I'll pull you to hell with me. Hell? Ha ha ha, the man began to laugh madly. Hell is the best place in existence. There's howling, blood, despair, all of the things I love. You're even more mad than you were before. Ling Chen replied. Really? Thank you for your compliment. However, I feel that I became not only more mad, but also compassionate. I actually let those 2 people you care about go, as well as those 2 trash. Aren't you grateful at all towards me? Ling Chen laughed. You? Compassionate? What a joke. However, you're right, I don't want to die. Today, you'll be the one dying. Ling Chen yelled, and killing intent burst out from his body. Back then, for Jia Wu, and for his revenge, he had been determined not to die. Today, for Shura, he wouldn't allow himself to die either. Ling Chen released everything he had. Against this sort of monster, he couldn't hold back at all. He couldn't die no matter what. If he didn't want to die, he would have to kill this Avenger from hell. Otherwise he would never be able to live in peace. Wawa! Ling Chen shot forwards like a bolt of lightning. To normal people, it was as if he had disappeared. Ling Chen's strongest asset was his mental energy, and second to that was his explosive power. He rushed towards hell and savagely swung his fist at him. His skills had come from hell, whereas his strength had come from the mad scientist. In heaven, his mental energy had grown stronger through the mad scientist's torture, and his body, through different medicines and chemicals, had also become incredibly powerful and tough. To Ling Chen, 10 steps was enough to instantly kill anyone. With his explosive power and speed, there were very few people who could live after being attacked like this. However, he wasn't so naive as to believe that he could instantly kill hell. As Ling Chen's fist approached him at an incredible speed, hell did not move at all, but raised his right hand and swung it towards Ling Chen's. Bang! Arg! As the two of their fists clashed, a massive sound had rung out, as if two massive boulders had crashed into each other. Ling Chen let out a cry of pain as his body flew backwards, and hit the ground 10 meters away. His entire right arm felt numb, and was trembling. Not long after, blood started trickling from his hand and arm, covering half his arm with blood. You want to compete with me in strength? You're so naive. Hell couldn't help but laugh. He hadn't moved a single step from where he was, and there wasn't even a scratch on him. In just one exchange, with Ling Chen attacking, his entire right arm had suffered some damage. Although there weren't any fractures, but he knew that some nerves had been destroyed. Hell's strength was far greater than his, and even 6 years ago, he had been unable to easily receive one of Hell's attacks. However, Hell was far more powerful than he was then. It was I who saved you and taught you your skills, as well as many things people couldn't even dream of learning. I even gave my own daughter to you to be your sex toy, and yet you repay me like this. I, who had never experienced what it felt like to die or come close to dying, was almost killed by Adam and Eve, who I placed all of my hope in. Adam, if you hadn't had so many desires back then, perhaps you would have already surpassed me. However, it's a pity, in fact, because of you, I've even learnt what hate is. I've hated you for 6 years. Tell me, how should I make you suffer? Heh, repay? To you, I was simply a tool or a machine. All we could think of in hell, including your daughter, was how to escape from your control. Killing you is the best way to repay you. Ha ha ha, Hell laughed with his raspy voice. It was impossible to tell what sort of emotion there was in that laugh. To him, everything in this world was like ants. If he wanted someone to die, they would die. These ants that he could easily kill simply didn't have the right for him to hate them or be angry at them. Well said. Back then, you nearly succeeded. Now, how should I repay you? Ha ha ha. A gust of wind blew, and the figure in front of Ling Chen blurred, then disappeared. Suddenly, a pressure that felt like a mountain came crashing at Ling Chen. Before the fist had even reached him, Ling Chen could feel his chest about to explode. Under the enormous pressure, even turning his body was incredibly difficult. He sure was that if he was hit by this, his chest, which could deflect even normal bullets, would have a hole gaping out of it. How could a human have such power? This was on a completely different level to 6 years ago. Containing his shock, Ling Chen managed to barely dodge by turning his body, then gathered his entire body's strength into his left hand as he swung the knife towards Hell's exposed back. Boom! This full-powered strike from Ling Chen was enough to crush boulders to dust. As his hand and knife smashed into Hell's back, the resulting sound was like a massive hammer had struck bedrock. Ling Chen's face revealed an expression of pain, as if his hand had struck an indestructible board. His wrist made a kacha sound as it dislocated, and many of the bones in his hand fragmented. The knife in his hand had also broken into pieces, but not a single piece had been buried into Hell's skin. Instead, many of them had pierced into Ling Chen's hand. Ling Chen's body once again flew out, and even flipped in the air before crashing to the ground. He clutched his bloodied and mangled left hand with his numb right hand. Pain filled his entire body. As for Hell, he had only stumbled back by a few steps, and his clothes had been destroyed. However, there was not a single wound on his skin. Impossible, this was simply impossible. Ling Chen had used all of his strength, and he had hit Hell right in the back. Even if it was Hell, he should have been injured to the extent that he spat out blood. Although the little knife was quite thin, but with enough speed and at the right angle, it should have been enough to pierce him, or at least cut him. It was impossible that there was no wound at all. Hell slowly turned at him, and his black eyes looked at Ling Chen's horrified face. Hey, that expression is very amusing. You don't seem to believe your own eyes. It must feel like you're dreaming, right? Ha, to be honest, after I was reborn, even I was shocked. Chi. Hell ripped off the remnants of the cloak, as well as the clothes on the upper half of his body. Indeed, this was Hell. Ling Chen could never forget this face. He looked around 40 years old and had ordinary looks, but anyone looking at this face would feel intense fear and dread. He was exactly the same as the Hell from 6 years ago, and hadn't aged at all. In fact, he looked even younger. Hell's skin was originally black, but now it was strangely white, and there was a glimmer on the surface of his skin. It was the glimmer of light reflecting off metal. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Anon, Lord_of_Fapping, Dryzak, Shabalabak, Norwegian Viking, Zero Mass, Pickles the Drummer, Kazakavoth, Thug Deer, Wolfpack Omega, Agile_Shah, Anthony Folkeston, Zeker, Anon, Amro B, Gresmy, Janaf, Cicero, Adam S, Bad Badger, Theta, Decimo. Your body has been modified? Ling Chen finally realized something as he coldly asked. Only a certain person could make such modifications to a human. And that was the mad scientist. That's right. Hell curtly replied. He rolled his neck, which released a caw sound, and folded his arms as he looked at Ling Chen with pity in his eyes. My body was destroyed by you guys, but because of that, I received an even more perfect body, the most perfect body in the world. You little monsters should know who it was that modified my body, right? That year, it was the mad scientist who saved me. I never thought that it would be him who would save me one day. He had been waiting for that day for a long time, because to him, I was the perfect experimental subject. However, he had never had the chance to make me into one of his subjects. It was only because of what you did that gave him this opportunity. He used 6 years to create for me a new body, an unfathomably strong and tough body. Ling Chen gritted his teeth, so he was right. No wonder why, after Hell had disappeared, the mad scientist had also disappeared. So he had been reviving Hell, then hid away. Hell slowly raised his right hand. It was a snow-white hand, with the palm facing Ling Chen. Ling Chen's eyes narrowed as he readied his body. Suddenly, Hell's entire right hand swung downwards, while his wrist stayed in the same place. With a kacha sound, Hell's fingers were now pressed against his wrist, and a black hole had appeared in the gap between his arm and his wrist. What? Bang! As something ignited within that dark hole, Ling Chen's body instantly jumped and rolled to the side. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out, with the force knocking Ling Chen far away, slamming him into a tree. There was now a 3-meter deep hole where he had been previously. As expected from the atom that I developed. You made such a perfect response in such a situation. Hell said as he coldly laughed. He raised his left hand, and his hand also swung down, revealing another hole and pointed it towards Ling Chen. I wonder how long you can dodge. Do your best though, so I can have fun for a bit longer. It'd be too boring if this ended before I could fully test out my new body. Ling Chen's eyes contracted as he stared at Hell, and he suddenly remembered a name that only appeared in sci-fi movies. Cyborg. This was definitely the work of the mad scientist. The mad scientist had actually created such a terrifying being. Ling Chen breathed in, and stuck close to the tree behind him as he said, "You, the proud and strong instructor Hell, were actually willing to give up your pride and dignity to become half human and half robot." Ha ha ha, Hell was not angry at all, but instead started to laugh. A long time ago, the mad scientist told me that he wanted to give me a body like this, which would make me many times stronger. However, at that time I refused. Now that I know how powerful this body is, I know how stupid I was back then. Hell stretched out his arms, reveling in his own body. This is such a wonderful body. The surface of my body is made of a metal that does not come from Earth. Its hardness is 3 times that of the best diamonds on Earth. Even lasers can't harm me much now. My full talent has been unlocked by this body. My internal organs have all been fully restored, and with a body like this, it's impossible to damage them at all. My eyes are from a creature that does not exist on Earth, and I can even see 1,000 meters away clearly. My body has exceeded anything you all thought was possible, and my right hand has become a weapon that can turn into 30 different types of destructive weapons. Haha, how incredible, how wonderful is this body. Do you know why I let those 2 women, as well as those 2 trash go? The reason is that I have this body because of you, and so only you are qualified to become the first offering that this body makes. Prepare yourself, Adam. A body 3 times harder than diamond, no wonder that knife was unable to even hurt him. With this sort of body, even if Ling Chen was 10 times stronger, he still wouldn't be able to harm him. In other words, he could never kill Hell. Ling Chen's body didn't feel as numb anymore, and he coldly laughed. The instructor Hell I knew definitely wouldn't have given up his basic dignity for power. Although I hated instructor Hell, but I respected him for his strength. However, now you've become mad. No, you're not even Hell anymore. You're just a monster that's even lower than a human. Moreover, Ling Chen narrowed his eyes as he swept over Hell's body as he said in a low voice, "Your body's toughness and strength has increased, but after adding so many things to your body, don't you feel heavy?" As soon as he spoke, Ling Chen suddenly turned, and rushed into the forest behind him. With his speed and explosive power, as well as the cover from the forest, he soon disappeared. He simply couldn't hurt this damn monster at all. Against him, Ling Chen only had one choice. Escape. As far as he could. Ling Chen disappeared from Hell's field of vision. However, Hell did not panic at all, and did not give chase, but instead coldly laughed. "Did you really think that I would be slower with this body? You're way too naive. There's something else that I forgot to tell you. My eyes are also equipped with the best tracking devices. Even if you escape to the end of the world, I'll still be able to find you. Well, I'll enjoy this game of cat and mouse. Don't worry, as the Reaper I put all of my hope in, I won't let you die too quickly. I'll prolong this game as long as possible and enjoy your suffering, ha ha ha." One of the fundamental rules of being an assassin was, do not toy with your enemy. However, Hell had forgotten this important rule that he himself had drilled into Ling Chen. From another perspective, he had no reason to follow this rule. After all, he wasn't worried that his target would be able to escape or retaliate, and there were not any variables that could change the outcome. The current him, to humans, was simply a god. Ling Chen desperately ran, and didn't stop even for a second. He pulled out the pieces of the knife from his hand as he ran, and the blood from both his left hand and right arm was beginning to stop. His flesh was repairing at a rate that could be observed by the human eye. This recovery speed was also something given to him by the mad scientist. Thinking to the mad scientist, Ling Chen's body shuddered. He was indeed completely and utterly mad. That incredibly skinny, short and weak-looking old man with white glasses had again and again created completely monstrous and impossible creations. From that single attack from before, Ling Chen knew just how incredibly powerful Hell was. Just as Hell had said, even lasers probably couldn't harm him. How could the mad scientist create such a monster? Right now, even if there were 10 Ling Chens, it would be impossible to kill Hell. His only option was to flee. His only hope was that Hell's speed had been reduced due to the modifications, and he would not be able to catch up to him. Behind him, he couldn't sense Hell chasing him. It seemed that he had shaken off Hell, but the pressure within his heart didn't disappear at all. Every second that he ran, he could almost feel a pair of eyes watching him, and his body felt like it was locked by something. No matter how fast he ran, or which direction he ran in, he couldn't get rid of that feeling. What was with this feeling? Was he being too paranoid? Yes, that was the only explanation. Ruo Ruo and Tian Tian are at home waiting for me. I can't die here. I can't let him find me. Ling Chen wiped the sweat off his forehead. In front of him was a vast piece of farmland. He retraced his footsteps and ran in a different direction. Without any birds or insects, the only sound was his feet lightly running on the ground, as well as the sounds from branches and twigs that he stepped on. An hour passed, and Ling Chen once again exited the forest, and returned to where he was originally. He stopped running, and looked around him, his body covered in cold sweat. This pressure and the feeling of being constantly watched. Run, keep running. Why did you stop? The atom that I trained shouldn't be exhausted so easily. Ling Chen's body stiffened, and he deeply inhaled and exhaled. He slowly turned around, and looked at Hell, who seemed to appear out of nowhere. Hell was standing within 10 steps of him, but even with Ling Chen's senses, he was unable to detect him. Your eyes contain some sort of tracking ability. Ling Chen coldly said as he stared at Hell's eyes. Your observation's pretty good. Indeed, as long as someone has been locked on to by me, with these eyes, they'll never be able to escape. Do you want to try? Hell asked as he grinned evilly. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Anon, Lord_of_Fapping, Dryzak, Shabalabak, Norwegian Viking, Zero Mass, Pickles the Drummer, Kazakavoth, Thug Deer, Wolfpack Omega, Agile_Shah, Anthony Folkeston, Zeker, Anon, Amro B, Gresmy, Janaf, Cicero, Adam S, Bad Badger, Theta, Decimo. He didn't have the ability to kill Hell, and neither was he able to run away. Was he really going to die here? Oh. You're not going to run anymore. That game of cat and mouse was quite amusing. In the end, you're the strongest Reaper that I trained, and was the first person who almost killed me. How could I let you die so easily? Hell started to coldly laugh before releasing an extremely malevolent and baleful aura. Before you die, I'll let you taste pain and despair 10 times, no, 100 times that of what I felt. Really? Ling Chen asked as he smirked. In this lifetime, I've already experienced 1,000 times as much pain and despair as you have. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to survive in heaven. Because I was unable to truly kill you that time, I'll have to accept your revenge. Although you may be able to kill me, but you'll never be able to make me feel fear and despair. In fact, it won't even be that easy to kill me. Ha! Ling Chen roared out. He didn't try to escape anymore, but rather shot straight towards Hell. His right hand formed a fist, and rocketed towards Hell's chest. Hell coldly laughed, but didn't move at all, seeming to allow Ling Chen to freely attack him. Ling Chen frowned, and when his hand was just half a meter from Hell's heart, his fist suddenly changed direction, and became a knife-hand strike aimed at Hell's throat. The current Hell was not the same Instructor Hell as back then. Instructor Hell wouldn't have looked down on any attack, no matter how weak it was, and wouldn't have allowed someone to freely attack him. Bang! Ling Chen's right palm smashed into Hell's throat, and the impact caused both his right hand and right arm to become completely numb. Hell slightly leaned back, and his eyes slightly widened, but that was all. He coldly laughed, and smashed his chin downwards. Crack! The sound of bone cleanly breaking rang out, causing Ling Chen's face to twist. His right hand was trapped by Hell's neck, and many of the bones had been broken. He tried to pull it back, but wasn't able to. Just the power of Hell's neck and chin was incredible. Ling Chen could only raise his left hand and smash it onto Hell's face. Again, Hell did not dodge, because he knew just how strong his body was. In this world, there was almost nothing that could damage him, even though this person in front of him was a monster. Bang! Ling Chen's left fist smashed heavily onto Hell's mouth. Even Hell's mouth felt like an indestructible steel board, and Ling Chen's left arm also became numb. Ling Chen gritted his teeth, and the moment his left fist hit Hell, a cold glint flashed in between his fingers. Arg! This howl of pain was not from Ling Chen, but from Hell. A drop of blood was spat out by Hell, and the pain caused him to release his grip on Ling Chen's right hand. By now, Ling Chen almost couldn't feel anything in his right hand. Ling Chen kicked Hell a few steps back as he coldly smiled. Looks like your body isn't so perfect after all. Although the outside has been modified, but the inside seems to be the same. More and more blood flowed out of Hell's mouth. He reached inside his mouth and pulled out a fingernail-sized shard of the broken knife from inside his mouth. When he attacked Hell, Ling Chen held a piece of the broken knife between his fingers, and upon hitting Hell's lips, he had flicked the knife shard into Hell's mouth. Ling Chen's fingers were incredibly powerful, and the knife shard had pierced through Hell's tongue, and embedded itself into the top of his mouth. A human's tongue was one of the most sensitive parts of their body, and having his tongue pierced was enough to make even Hell howl in pain. Hell easily crushed the knife shard in between his fingers, and wiped his mouth with his hand. His expression was no longer as aloof and arrogant, but rather like that of a mad beast's. You made my perfect body bleed. Heh, if it was you from back then, you wouldn't have even given me this opportunity, and even if you were hurt, you would be scarily calm, instead of outraged like this. Looks like not only was your body modified, but your mind was warped as well. I wonder if this change came from yourself, or if the mad scientist did it to you. Ling Chen retorted. Humph. Hell released more of his killing intent as the surrounding pressure grew heavier and heavier. Looks like many years of not fighting and having this perfect body have caused me to become careless. You were able to successfully damage my body, as well as anger me. I was going to let you live for a few more hours, but I've decided to kill you immediately. From the change in Hell's expression, Ling Chen could tell that he had finally decided to kill him. Ling Chen breathed in, and his mind became blank as he cleared all distracting thoughts. All of his willpower and thoughts were gathered on survival. If there wasn't Shui Ruo, he wouldn't have minded dying, but he was determined to live on for Shui Ruo. Hell stretched out his right hand, which detached and once again revealed the black hole. He aimed towards Ling Chen as he spoke. Don't worry, I'll find Eve soon and send her to be with you. If you two had behaved well back then, you could have witnessed the creation of a new kingdom, and become a reaper, standing on top of millions of people. However, you were foolish and made a huge mistake. Now, die. Witness the creation of a new kingdom? What did he mean? Boom! With Ling Chen's body, any normal bullets that were shot outside of 10 meters would be unable to harm him. However, the weapons on Hell's body were all created by the mad scientist. Nothing made by the mad scientist could be taken lightly. As the fire within the black hole ignited, the feeling of death came over Ling Chen. Boom! The projectile shot through Ling Chen's afterimage, and exploded on a tree. The half-meter-thick tree had been completely snapped in half, resulting in a boom as it fell to the ground. Ling Chen had been able to dodge that attack, but both his arms were still numb, and it was difficult for him to maintain his balance. If he hadn't crashed into another tree, he would have already fallen onto the ground. He didn't have any time to breathe as he felt himself being aimed at again, and without thinking, he pushed off the tree and jumped away. Boom! Ling Chen never expected that he would one day face off against a cyborg that only appeared in sci-fi movies. Hell was simply too powerful, his body was incredibly tough, and he had even been given ridiculously strong weapons. Although there was only one of him, but he could single-handedly create catastrophes. Boom! 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 Ling Chen was incredibly agile, and had incredible senses and reaction speed. Even after attacking more than 10 times, Hell had not hit him even once. Although Ling Chen was not hit, but he would be hit by the shockwaves each time, damaging his organs. Seeing this, Hell became impatient. He coldly laughed, and stopped firing temporarily. The fiery light within the black hole quickly grew, and was fired 3 seconds later after locking on to Ling Chen's position. Boom! Ling Chen had dodged incredibly quickly as the red light exploded where he had been standing. The moment it exploded, massive shockwaves radiated from the area. To Ling Chen, who was still in the air, it felt like he was hit with a sledgehammer in the back. Blood spurted out from his mouth, and his body flew out like a broken kite, then slammed into the ground. The mad scientist's weapons were simply terrifying. It was hard to believe that such weapons were embedded inside a human's body. Even though he had not been directly hit, the shockwaves had almost blown apart Ling Chen's body. Intense pain spread throughout his body, and his head was spinning. He didn't have any strength to run, and even his vision began to blur. Ling Chen stretched his hand out to a tree trunk and dragged himself up. The figure in front of him blurred, and Hell almost instantly arrived in front of him. His pincer-like hand grabbed Ling Chen around his neck, and easily lifted him up. With Hell's hand around his neck, Ling Chen lost all strength in his body. He was unable to struggle at all, and could not even make a sound. Within his blurring vision, he could almost see a death god raising its sickle at him as he heard in his ear, no less than a body experimented on by the mad scientist. "You're still alive after taking that attack. Heh, let's see how long the monster who could resist 15 times mental energy shock can last." Hell savagely threw Ling Chen, causing him to smash through a thick tree trunk and continue to fly. In the end, he smashed through 6 trees, and heavily crashed into the 7th tree. The tree shook, and Ling Chen fell onto the ground, unmoving. The only thing he could do at the moment was keep his eyes open. However, his eyes had lost their focus, and couldn't even see anything. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Anon, Lord_of_Fapping, Dryzak, Shabalabak, Norwegian Viking, Zero Mass, Pickles the Drummer, Kazakavoth, Thug Deer, Wolfpack Omega, Agile_Shah, Anthony Folkeston, Zeker, Anon, Amro B, Gresmy, Janaf, Cicero, Adam S, Bad Badger, Theta, Decimo. The pain was almost unbearable, and many of his bones had been broken. Nevertheless, Ling Chen was glad he could feel pain. After all, it meant that he was still alive. He blinked, trying to focus his vision, and wriggled his fingers. However, that was all he could do. He could feel an oppressive pressure drawing closer and closer, and he was once again picked up by his neck. "It's painful, isn't it? You're not willing to die like this, right?" Hell asked in a low voice. "What you're going through is more or less what I went through back then. However, I could come back from hell, but you won't even have a corpse. Actually, it'd be fun if I could make you my puppet. It's a pity that your mental energy is too strong though, strong to the point that you could even escape from the mad scientist's control. Thus, our only choice was for me to come and end you. To be honest, you should be thanking me. Because if you lived on, and had to face what was coming, your fate would be even worse than death, ha 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 ha. Ling Chen, die." This time, Hell used almost all of his strength as he once again flung Ling Chen towards the thickest tree he could see. With a massive boom, Ling Chen crashed into a 1-meter thick tree that was probably over 100 years old. The incredibly thick tree was split in half, and the upper half also flew out. The moment Ling Chen smashed into that tree, his consciousness was once again on the verge of collapse, and he didn't even notice as he fell to the ground. The entire world had become white, and everything had become silent. It was so silent that he could hear his own heartbeat. My heart is still beating. I'm not dead. Rua is waiting for me at home. How can I die here? If I die, who will protect her? If I die, she'll be overcome with grief and might even do something stupid. I can't die no matter what. Ling Chen's body lay slanted against a large tree, completely unmoving. Beneath his body was a large pool of blood. His eyes were still open, but they seemed to stare out into the distance, as if he was dead. Even when Hell's body blurred, then appeared in front of him, there was no reaction at all from him. Seeing the strongest Reaper he had trained using his own skills against him, causing him to fall into despair, had filled Hell with boundless fury. Right now, he was no longer Instructor Hell. Not only had he received a new body, but his mind had also been twisted. Seeing Ling Chen on the brink of death, he coldly laughed. If it was that woman Eve, she'd already be in 100 pieces. You monster, you're still in one piece and alive after all that. No wonder you blocked so many hits for Eve back then, and could even deal a life-threatening strike to me. If it wasn't for the power and weapons that the mad scientist gave me, I probably wouldn't be able to kill you. Ling Chen didn't know what sort of condition he was in right now, only that he was still alive. He could feel that Hell was in front of him, and that he was saying something, but he couldn't focus on what he was saying. It had been like this every time he had been on the verge of death, but like every time before this, he wouldn't allow himself to die. He couldn't die no matter what. It was so hard for Rua and I to finally get rid of the Isrock disease nightmare, and everything has been getting better and better. How can I allow myself to die here and now? Before, with his sheer willpower, he had been able to resist his consciousness fading, time and time again. However, this time was different. Back then, he could use his willpower to keep his consciousness intact. This time, it was his body that was going to perish first. The world in front of him was completely white, and he tried to focus to see what was in front of him. He was unable to move, so he could only focus his mental energy into his eyes. Despite this, his vision still hadn't recovered, so the world was still white to him. However, when he had done this, the white world started to spin, and began to spin faster and faster. Having a strong body doesn't seem to be that great of a thing either, because I won't ever be able to experience the thrill of fighting. Even if it's you, all you can do is struggle uselessly in front of me. Since it's like this, I should end this game now. Standing in front of the unmoving Ling Chen, Hell raised his wrist towards Ling Chen, pointing the muzzle towards his head as he said, "Goodbye, Adam. When you're in Hell, don't forget to welcome everyone else, ha ha ha." As he was talking, he didn't notice that behind him, a black shadow had stealthily appeared. This shadow was almost undetectable by the human eye, and it raised its palm towards Hell's back. As he madly laughed, Hell prepared to open fire when suddenly, 2 rays of red light appeared in front of him. Those 2 rays of red light evidently came from Ling Chen's seemingly lifeless eyes. What? This sight caused Hell to freeze in shock. The shadow behind him was also shocked, and froze in place, staring at the red light coming from Ling Chen's eyes. How could a human's eyes let out red light? What was going on? Moreover, this light was blood red. Ling Chen's world had changed from white to blood red. He didn't understand what was going on, and didn't know why his vision had turned blood red. He could see a person's silhouette in front of him, and could tell that it was Hell. However, what he didn't see wasn't Hell's face and external appearance, but rather, his arteries, veins, heart, bones, lungs. This was the inside of Hell's body. Why would he be able to see such a thing? The outside of Hell's body was virtually indestructible, but his organs were still human. If his organs were destroyed, he would still die. Destroy his organs. Destroy his organs. Destroy his organs. Ling Chen stared intensely at those countless arteries, veins, organs, desperately willing them to explode, to be cut. Gradually, the scene before him began to change. He saw the arteries begin to twist, and the organs began to enlarge, as if they were going to explode. Arg! Hell, who was preparing to deal the final blow to Ling Chen, suddenly gave a horrific shriek, feeling as if his entire body had been pierced by thousands of swords. As he howled, he pressed against his chest with his hands, then fell to the ground, rolling around in pain. As his organs began to rupture and explode, blood began to stream from his 7 orifices, splattering the ground with blood. However, no matter how much he screamed and yelled, the pain didn't stop, but instead became even more intense. Ling Chen's world became an even deeper shade of red, and he continued to fixedly stare at Hell's exploding blood vessels and organs. He continued to use his gaze to rip them apart and rupture them. Destroy, all of them. All of them. Ling Chen gathered all of his mental energy into his eyes, and watched as the blood vessels and organs all twisted together and became a pile of bloodied mush. As his consciousness faded, the blood-red world once again became white, then completely black. Hell's tortured cries finally died down, and stared at Ling Chen as he also lay on the ground. The whole region had become completely silent. The mysterious shadow that was behind Hell came in front of Ling Chen and stared at him for a while, before softly speaking out in a quivering voice, "Eyes of extermination." Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Anon, Lord_of_Fapping, Dryzak, Shabalabak, Norwegian Viking, Zero Mass, Pickles the Drummer, Kazakavoth, Thug Deer, Wolfpack Omega, Agile_Shah, Anthony Folkeston, Zeker, Anon, Amro B, Gresmy, Janaf, Cicero, Adam S, Bad Badger, Theta, Decimo. Ling Chen's body was broken in many places, and was covered blood. There almost wasn't a single place that wasn't damaged. His internal organs had all suffered quite a bit of damage as well. After all, being hit by the shockwave and smashed through trees would have already reduced a normal person into meat paste. However, even like this, Ling Chen's body began to regenerate. The countless wounds all began to quickly close at a rate that could be visibly seen. All of the wounds have stopped bleeding, and his life force isn't slipping away, but rather recovering. With these sorts of injuries, a normal person could already be declared to be dead, and would not live for more than 15 minutes. Even if they did survive, they would be a cripple for the rest of their lives. What's with this ridiculous recovery rate? The shadow continued to mutter itself as it stared at Ling Chen. In just minutes, Ling Chen's body had already stabilized, and was still recovering at an astonishing rate. The recovery rate was evidently boosted by his strong desire to live. In the distance, the sound of footsteps getting closer could be heard, and the shadow turned, then completely disappeared. The moment the shadow disappeared, a woman in white rushed over. Her usual cold but extremely beautiful face was filled with worry. She immediately saw Ling Chen leaning against the tree, a large pool of blood beneath him, as if he was dead. Her eyes contracted, and she ran over as fast as she could. Standing in front of Ling Chen, she reached out with trembling hands. Her tears almost started to come out as she looked at this horrific scene. This was her worst nightmare, and her head started to spin as she continued to look. "Yao Yao, is it you?" Behind her, an extremely weak voice sounded out. Mu Bingyao's entire body released a chilling aura as she suddenly turned around and viciously looked at Hell. He was lying on the ground, completely covered in blood. Seeing this person who should have died 6 years ago, she was not shocked at all. Instead, she was filled with pain and hatred, and even her voice became murderous. "You're still not dead, you killed him." Mu Bingyao's expression and voice caused Hell to give a pained smile as he spoke incredibly weakly. "He's not dead, and won't die." The mad scientist said that, unless his whole body is destroyed, his powerful mental energy can keep him alive. Not only won't he die, but he'll recover quickly. The one who will die is me. All of my organs have ruptured and I can only talk through my emergency life support system, but I can't last long. after saying so much, Hell's originally pale face became even whiter. Mu Bingyao quickly returned to Ling Chen's side, and touched Ling Chen's face with her hand. The warmth from his face caused her to become delirious with joy as she cried out, "Thank goodness, thank goodness." Hell could see Mu Bingyao's back, as well as her tears falling onto the ground. She had never cried even once for him, even when he had died 6 years ago. After confirming that Ling Chen was still alive, Mu Bingyao calmed down by a lot. When she turned around, her face had already recovered its cold look, and it was impossible to tell that she had just been crying. She flicked both wrists, and a silver dagger and a silver pistol appeared in her left and right hands. She pointed them towards Hell, with hatred in her eyes as she said, "You dared to injure him, dying 1,000 times won't be enough to atone for it." Looking at the dagger and pistol, Hell's expression did not change, but began to laugh. "I am the most pitiful father in the world. Back then when he killed me, you didn't hate him, but followed him. Now that I injured him, you hate me so much. Ha ha ha, you don't have the right to call yourself my father." Mu Bingyao spat as she coldly glared at him. "You killed my mother, and made my entire life a nightmare. You only raised me so that I could become one of your killing machines. The only thing that I'm thankful to you for is giving me to him. He is my sole reason for living, and I won't forgive anyone who hurts him." Mu Bingyao pointed her pistol at Hell's temple, with her finger on the trigger. "A girl with a mother will never become an excellent reaper. That's why I killed your mother. In the end, you're my daughter. In this world, there's no father who doesn't love his daughter. This seemingly peaceful world you see is about to descend into darkness. Only by becoming a powerful reaper can you avoid becoming a puppet. I gave you to Adam, because I knew you had feelings for him, and only he is good enough for my daughter." Back then, Hell would never say so many words to her, nor would his words carry any emotion. Mu Bingyao looked at the dying Hell in shock. After 6 years, he had become a completely different person, and she herself was also different. Mu Bingyao lowered the dagger and pistol, then put them away. She turned around as she coldly said, "I hate you, but in the end, you brought me into this world. As such, I won't kill you. You can slowly die yourself." She came over to Ling Chen's side, and seeing his condition, her tears once again came out. She stretched out her hands, carefully checking Ling Chen's wounds. Behind her, Hell once again spoke with his weak voice. "Thank you, at least, you still acknowledge that I am your father. Only now have I realized that. I tried to do too much in this life. Perhaps, like Adam said, my heart and mind have changed. However, at least I still have a daughter in this world. That's not too bad." Cough, cough. Yao Yao, the mad scientist, and a group of terrifying people, are carrying out a fearsome plan. They've controlled the Cosmos Corporation. Don't go into Mystic. Hell breathed his last breath, and Mu Bingyao, who was focusing on Ling Chen, didn't fully hear his warning. She looked back at Hell, and silently, a single tear flowed out from the corner of her eye. Footsteps of people running could be heard, as 7 people wearing similar clothing ran at an astonishing speed. 5 of them were male, and the other 2 were female, and they were all between the ages of 20 to 40. After receiving Mu Bingyao's message, they had all madly rushed here, and upon seeing Ling Chen's body covered with blood, it was as if their heads had exploded. Who did this? Who was it? The man leading the others was skinny and short, but his gaze was like a piercing and sharp blade. His entire body trembled and he howled, as did the others, as if they had fallen into hell. Mu Bingyao quickly got up and said in a low voice, "Master is still alive. Guiyu, Yao Ying, calm down, and save Master." The 7 of them all froze, then rushed over, checking Ling Chen's pulse. Guiyu immediately yelled, "Hurry! Carry Master into the car, hurry! Hurry up!" In the last 6 years, this was the first time they had seen Ling Chen in this state, and it was the first time Guiyu had lost control of his emotions in such a manner. He turned around and grabbed one of the men behind him by the collar as he yelled, "Gui Dao! You knew that something was wrong, so why didn't you stay back to protect Master? Have you forgotten who it was that brought us out of that hell, and let us live decent lives? There is nothing more important than Master's life in this world. If something happens to Master, you'll accompany him as well." Gui Dao looked downwards. They had never disobeyed Ling Chen's commands before, and after Ling Chen had told him not to come back or contact him, he had not dared to disobey. However, he felt that something was wrong, and so he immediately contacted the highest ranking out of Ling Chen's subordinates, Guiya. Now that this had already happened, he wouldn't make any excuses. He gritted his teeth as he replied, "I was useless, and didn't properly protect Master. Please allow me to see Master get well first, before I end my life to make up for this." "You bastard!" Guiya threw him to the ground as he said, "Who told you to die? Live on and use your life to properly serve Master." 2 cars quickly drove over, and 3 of them carefully put Ling Chen inside, before once again speeding off. Thank you to our Patreon supporters, Anon, Lord_of_Fapping, Dryzak, Shabalabak, Norwegian Viking, Zeromass, Pickles the Drummer, Kazakavoth, Thugdeer, Wolfpack Omega, Agile_Shah, Anthony Folkeston, Zeker, Anon, Amro B, Gresmy, Janaf, Cicero, Adam S, Bad Badger, Theta, Decimo. This demon actually came back from hell, no less than expected of Master. He actually defeated him by himself. Guiya exclaimed as he gripped his hands into fists, his forehead covered with cold sweat. He was aware of just how powerful hell was. Back then, Ling Chen had fought with Eve by his side, and even then, they were unable to kill him. However, this time, Ling Chen had actually defeated hell by himself. He could only imagine how fierce and dangerous the battle was. In this whole world, only Master would be able to kill hell. Now that hell's dead, there's nothing in the world that can threaten Master. After confirming that hell was dead, all of them felt slightly better. Although Ling Chen had been severely injured, they knew how strong his recovery was. Thinking to the fact that he had single-handedly killed hell, their faces all revealed expressions of deep respect and admiration. Since he's already dead, there's no need to waste any more time here. Let's go. Mu Bingyao coldly said as she walked towards the remaining car. Guiya nodded, "Let's go." After Shui Ruo and Tian had been safely sent home, one of the men immediately left, while the other one stood guard outside the door. After getting home, Shui Ruo simply couldn't calm down. Almost every minute she would glance at the clock. 4 p.m. 5 p.m. Ling Chen still wasn't home. She gripped her phone in her hands, but didn't dare to call Ling Chen, in case she disturbed him while he did something important. Tian stayed by her side the entire side, and kept comforting her. However, without Ling Chen, Shui Ruo was unable to keep calm. They had only separated for a few hours, and yet she felt so uncomfortable. Finally, at 6 p.m., the door was suddenly opened, and the sound of people rushing in could be heard. Shui Ruo rushed out of the bedroom, and saw a group of people coming in. Apart from the 2 men who had drove them to and from the picnic, all of them were strangers to her. Before she could ask who they were and what they were doing, she suddenly saw Ling Chen being carried in on a stretcher. The shirt he had been wearing had been completely stained with blood, and so was every part of his skin. Shui Ruo stumbled as she felt the world spinning around her. She rushed over as she cried out, "Big brother, big brother." For the past 6 years, these people had always been staying with Ling Chen and carrying out his orders. Every one of them knew why he had stayed in Zhongzhou, then came to Beijing. This was all for Shui Ruo. Ling Chen and Shui Ruo's feelings for each other had grown to the point that they both considered the other person's life to be more important than their own. As such, they knew what sort of reaction Shui Ruo would have upon seeing Ling Chen. Severe shocks could harm one's body and mind, and they definitely couldn't allow Shui Ruo to come to any harm. Mu Bingyao quickly walked over, and hugged Shui Ruo, preventing her from getting close as she quickly said, "Ruo Ruo, don't worry, Master's fine. He's a bit injured, but he'll be fully recovered soon. We all need to calm down so we can properly look after him." Shui Ruo was much too worried about Ling Chen to ask Mu Bingyao any questions. Seeing the condition Ling Chen was in, it felt like her whole world was crumbling. Hearing Mu Bingyao's words, she froze as tears of worry and anguish flowed out. "Big sister. Ah. Big brother." Tian also ran out, and gave a cry of surprise when she saw Ling Chen. Shui Ruo pulled her over and wrapped her arms her as she said, "Don't cry, Tian, big brother's just a bit injured, and is sleeping right now. He'll be fine soon. Please, all of you, please save him." They could see that although Shui Ruo had taken some shock, she was desperately trying to stay calm and collected. Seeing this, they were able to breathe out in relief. Guiye gritted his teeth as he paced around. Unable to contain himself anymore, he barked out, "Why aren't Yao Ying and Qian Mo here yet? Master's life is on the balance. We're here." The door was suddenly opened, and two women in their 20s ran in, and the other people stepped aside. Many top-notch assassins were also highly skilled doctors. In order to be skilled enough to quickly kill their enemy, one required in-depth knowledge about the human body. Moreover, in order to stay alive, one was also required to know how to treat their own wounds. Within their group, Yao Ying and Qian Mo were the experts. While they were all in hell, these two had treated most of their injuries. Big sister Yao Ying, big sister Qian Mo, these two women were the ones who had helped her level up to LV10 in the novice village. Now, she finally understood why they had suddenly appeared and helped her. Shui Ruo had already stopped crying, and bit her lips to prevent herself from making any noise. Mu Bingyao's words had woken her up. Only by staying calm could she help Big Brother. Yao Ying and Qian Mo began to examine Ling Chen's body, as everyone else held their breath in anticipation. No one dared to say anything, afraid that they would disrupt the two women. Most of them were strangers, but all of them had expressions of deep worry and anxiousness. Shui Ruo knew that they were definitely the people Ling Chen told her about, the ones who were always silently watching over them. With them watching over Ling Chen, Shui Ruo felt much better. At this moment, Yao Ying and Qian Mo simultaneously stood up, and Shui Ruo rushed over as she asked with a trembling voice, "Big sister Yao Ying, big sister Qian Mo, how is Big Brother? He's not injured too badly, right? When will he get better?" Everyone else also anxiously looked at them. Yao Ying and Qian Mo also felt pained as they looked at Shui Ruo's tear-stained face. Yao Ying gently smiled, Ruo, don't worry. To other people, these injuries would be life-threatening, but they're no problem to Master. Big sister promises you that Master will definitely wake up within 3 days, and his injuries will be mostly healed by then. He'll be completely fine within a week. Yep. We swear on our hearts. Qian Mo also walked over as she smiled at Shui Ruo. Hearing this, every person's face immediately lit up. The Reapers who rarely talked and even more rarely smiled all hugged each other as they laughed and yelled out, "Hooray, hooray." Shui Ruo vigorously nodded. Although her heart still hurt, but she was not despairing anymore. She grabbed Yao Ying and Qian Mo's hands as she said, Please heal Big Brother. Don't worry, we were telling the truth. In fact, Master's life is more important to us than anything in the world. We wouldn't let anything happen to him." Yao Ying quickly turned around and said, "Fill the bath with cold water, and help Master into the bath. Be careful when you're moving him." After she finished issuing out commands, Yao Ying rushed into the bathroom. Qian Mo went outside, and retrieved a heavy-looking box from the car, and also went inside the bathroom. Ling Chen's body was carefully lowered into the bath, and the door was shut. Unable to see Ling Chen, Shui Ruo's heart once again began to wildly beat as she hugged Tian Tian. The person who hurt him was called Hell. He was the only person in the world who could harm him to such an extent. Mu Bingyao softly explained as she sat down next to Shui Ruo. Seeing Mu Bingyao here, Shui Ruo finally understood who she was. She realized that the frozen-hearted man-eater joining Heart's dream was probably arranged by Ling Chen. All along, none of them had known the relationship between her and Ling Chen. Hell, Shui Ruo repeated this name. She remembered that Ling Chen had told her about this person before. It was the person he had killed 6 years ago with Eve. Didn't he die already? Mu Bingyao looked slightly surprised. It seems that Master has already told you about some of this. We thought that he had died, but he actually came back to life. Master sensed his aura, and quickly got you all to leave, and wouldn't let any of us go there, because Master knew that if it was actually hell, us going would simply be suicide. Gui Dao felt that something was wrong, so he contacted Guiya. By the time we had arrived, it was too late. Luckily, Hell had already died. He's definitely dead this time. After being killed by Master, there's no one in the world who can threaten Master's life anymore. This thorn in our side has finally been eliminated, and although the price was great, this can be said to be a good thing. After all, Yao Ying and Qian Mo just said that Master will recover very quickly, so, don't worry, alright? What he needs the most is your care. Shui Ruo looked up and nodded, looking at Mu Bingyao with tears in her eyes. She smiled gently. Big sister Bingyao, I never thought you'd be able to talk so much, and be so comforting as well. Mu Bingyao, thank you to our Patreon supporters, Anon, Lord_of_Fapping, Dryzak, Shabalabak, Norwegian Viking, Zero Mass, Pickles the Drummer, Kazakavoth, Thug Deer, Wolfpack Omega, Agile_Shah, Anthony Folkeston, Zeker, Anon, Amro B, Gresmy, Janaf, Cicero, Adam S, Bad Badger, Theta, Decimo.